10:11, and as promised, we bring you the Prime Minister's press
We'll
conference. We
start
just
with
got
the
started.
national anthem. Please stand. Thank you. Please remain standing as we pray. Let us bow our heads in reflection. Almighty God, as we gather here today, we seek your guidance and blessings. Grant us the wisdom to speak with clarity and honesty, the compassion to understand the needs of our community and our nation, and the strength to serve with integrity. May our words and actions reflect the values of justice, compassion, and solidarity, and bless our endeavors to improve the lives of our people and uphold the principles of good governance and sustainability. We seek your blessings upon the proceedings today. In your grace, we pray. Amen. I acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Dr. Terrance Drew, Prime Minister and Minister of National Security, Finance, Citizenship and Immigration, Health and Social Security. The Honorable Dr. Jeffrey Hanley, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Education, Youth Empowerment, Social Development, Gender Affairs, Aging and Disabilities, Ecclesiastical and Faith-Based Affairs, and Housing and Human Settlement. The Honorable Conris Maynard, Minister of Public Infrastructure, Energy and Utilities, Domestic Transport, Information, Communication and Technology, and Posts. The Honorable Garth Wilkin, Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs. The Honorable Marsha Henderson, the Minister of Tourism, Civil Aviation, International Transport, Employment and Labor, and Urban Development. The Honorable Samuel Duggins, Minister of Agriculture, Fisheries, Marine Resources and Cooperatives, Small Business and Entrepreneurship, Sports and the Creative Economy, and Entertainment and the Arts. The Honorable Dr. Joy L. Clark, Minister of Sustainable Development, Environment and Climate Action, Constituency Empowerment, is with us virtually. The Honorable Senator Iseline Phillip, Junior Minister of Youth Empowerment, Social Development and Gender Affairs, Aging and Disabilities. The Honorable Dr. Denzel Douglas, apologies, is extended. He is a bit delayed. He had a meeting this morning and is on his way. He's a Senior Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs, International Trade, Industry, Commerce and Consumer Affairs, Economic Development and Investment. I extend welcome again to this esteemed gathering where we have come together to discuss matters of national and regional and international importance. And I extend again a warm welcome to the press, our esteemed guests who are present here with us today, and to all who are listening to us virtually as well. The press conference is being carried live on ZIZ, radio and television, Freedom FM, Win FM, Vaughan Radio, TVC on cable TV channel 40 and Tel TV in St. Martin, SKN Newsline, CBN television and radio in British Virgin Islands, KCN TV in Anguilla, and TVC Carib in St. Martin and Dutch Antilles. Thank you very much for assisting us with coverage today. I extend my gratitude to each of you for your presence here and for the dedication to our principles of democracy and freedom of the press. Your role in keeping the public informed is indeed invaluable and greatly appreciated. And without further ado, I will hand over to the Prime Minister and invite him to deliver his opening statement, which will be immediately followed by the Minister's updates on the recent developments within the Federation. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Madam Press Secretary, Mrs. Adelcia Terrance. Let me, of course, take this opportunity to welcome all of you to this first press conference of the year. Not that this has been my first or any of us first press conference, but as a cabinet. And so I want to welcome the press and all those who are here with us this morning, but especially to those who are listening, our citizens and residents, both here in St. Kitts and Nevis, those who are abroad and listening through the various media platforms that have been provided so that you can tune into the developments that are taking place in your country. I want to recognize all of my cabinet colleagues, and in the interest of time, I will not name all of them, but Madam Press Secretary, just allow me to make one update that Minister Iselin Philip, is Minister Iselin Philip, not Junior Minister, that has been corrected, and for those who are in the protocol world and for our people to know. So she's Minister Iselin Philip in a particular ministry. So I recognize all the rest of my colleagues, of course, those who are here and those who are definitely on their way. As you have mentioned, the format will be a bit different this morning in that I will read my opening statement and speak to some aspects of my ministries. And then each minister will speak to his or her ministry, and then the press will have the opportunity to ask the questions that it wishes. And therefore, that format, I think, would give an opportunity to hear in a more calm way from all of the ministers, instead of at the end where they sometimes have to be rushing. My fellow citizens and residents, cabinet colleagues and esteemed members of the press, I welcome you all to this first press conference for 2024. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to address you today and share some significant updates regarding the progress of your government's initiatives and commitments. As we embark on another year, it is crucial to reaffirm our unwavering dedication to the principles of good governance and the realization of our sustainable island state vision. These guiding principles underpin every decision and action we take as a government, reflecting our steadfast commitment to the well-being and prosperity of all citizens of Nevis and St. Kitts. I would like to also add that this team has been working tremendously hard on your behalf. It's a team that is delivering, and its delivery is being felt. But let me delve a little bit now into some aspects of my ministries. With respect to health, health remains a top priority for us, and I am pleased to announce substantial advancements in our healthcare infrastructure, particularly at the Joseph N. France General Hospital. As we continue to work towards the new climate-smart hospital, we remain committed to enhancing the experience and quality of care at all of our hospitals. For years, the persistent issue of leaking roof has plagued the hospital, JNF especially, causing discomfort and inconvenience. However, through collaborative efforts with local contractors and the generous support of the Republic of China, Taiwan, relief is on the horizon. And to say to all of us that work is presently being done on the roof at JNF, the members from the Republic of China, Taiwan, they have brought in a technology to deal with the situation once and for all. And they are well into their work. Over the last week, with the significant rainfall that we have had, the roof has held up. We are accustomed that the roof would leak when there is heavy rain, and this technology that they have introduced has been shown to withstand the rainfall in recent times. Our investments extend beyond mere infrastructure, however, but we do recognize that. And if you go to the hospital, you'll recognize that work is being done on the foyer to improve the experience as people enter the hospital. And we'll be using technology as part of improving that enhanced experience. We are also doing work on the morgue, which is almost completed. It was a dilapidated, neglected part of the hospital, and we have done significant work there. And parts of the roof in the back of the hospital are what we used to call the whole hospital, the old hospital. That is going on presently. We are also earmarking the psychiatric ward, where we are now undergoing the scope of work to start significant work at the psychiatric ward as well. We are getting ready to open back up the private ward, which had suffered, and that is part of completing all of the works at the JNF hospital. But in addition to that, we are in the process of procuring new ambulances. We recognize that we need more ambulances or newer ambulances, and we are in the process at this particular time. We hope that those will be in the fleet within the first quarter. Within the hospital, we have also gone to procure a CT scan machine, which will be implemented in March to April, the most up-to-date CT scan machine there is. I also want to report that the fluoroscopy, which is a type of imaging piece of equipment, the technicians were here last week. They're going to be here next week to complete that work so that we can have that type of service at JNF. We have also procured a brand new ultrasound machine, which can do various types of ultrasound. And just to touch on the part of radiology, to let you know that we have the highest number ever of radiographers at JNF in its history. We have 7 radiographers at JNF, and we have 2 full-time radiologists. The difference is the radiologists are the specialist doctors, and the radiographers are the technicians who actually do the X-ray for you. That department is really endowed presently with full complement. But apart from that and the new equipment that will be coming for imaging, including the MRI machine, and the procurement process for the MRI machine has been completed. The building, a special building, will start construction very, very soon. The procurement process is done. The contractor is already on site looking at getting the building for the MRI machine done, and that will be delivered this year as well. The other one that we are looking at is mammogram. We have the mammogram machine, but we have encountered a situation with it, and we are now in the process of getting that machine up and going. So the technicians will also be coming in to get that machine up and going. So this would be the most equipped that the radiology department at JNF would be in its history. It would offer MRI, CT scan, fluoroscopy, mammogram, and a slew of different types of X-rays with the necessary radiographers and specialists, to the point where we'll be looking at expanding the service outside of Basti. So I'm happy to report that as well. Furthermore, our partnership with UKSH, a major university hospital in Germany. You all remembered when I spoke about my trip to Germany in 2019. Well, that trip is now bringing the fruits, what we are calling the improved collaboration that will redound in better services for all of our people. And the Germans will partner with us in terms of training, and they are also going to extend their own services so that they can do what we call telemedicine in reading our images here in Germany and sending back the results here in St. Kitts and Nevis. That is what the technology would allow us to do. So that is a second layer of making sure that our radiology department is a very modern and up-to-date radiology department. When it comes to the issue of national security, I want to touch on a number of things that we have also done significantly for the first time. We have the full complement of the High Command for the first time in about 8 years, at least 7 years, where we now have a commissioner, a deputy commissioner, the 3 ACPs, but we have added a 4th ACP. And we are now going to make community policing a fundamental part of policing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And you have seen the officers out, you have seen other people reporting on it. All the time we speak about policing the community and community policing. We have taken it a step further, adding an extra ACP and making community policing a fundamental part of policing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We have brought on 2 advisors, both who are Kittitians, in the person of Dr. Lionel Rollins and Dr. Powell, both of whom are offering the services to us at reduced costs. We can never pay them the full amount that they would in the United States or other parts of the world, but 2 Kittitians recognize that they want to come home to serve their people here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and at a reduced cost, they're offering their expertise. I want to also add that we have restarted the canine unit in its full complement. We have brought in new canine specimens, dogs in simple terms. They have been trained and they are now on the job to help to deal with the issue of national security. There were no police stations in constituency number 6 operating. We have recently reopened the Date police station, and we are now looking at the St. Paul's police station, and that police station is offering its full services to Date and the surrounding environs. We have also opened up a technological aspect to policing, which is also incorporating AI technology so that we can detect and solve crimes, but more importantly, help to prevent crimes from taking place. We have also employed the use of polygraph to make sure that those who serve are serving with the highest level of integrity. Of course, I don't question anyone's integrity, but it was deemed necessary to engender more confidence in the public that those who serve are serving with the highest integrity. We have also restructured the Elevate program. It took us about a year plus to do it, to get away from the corrupt peace program that was used to embezzle money to the tune of tens of millions. And if you listen to what the Prime Minister of Jamaica had to say, we had to make sure that St. Kitts and Nevis never enter that road. And so we have introduced a program to really help the participants. We need our young men to be helped. They must not be cast aside, but be given a real opportunity to reintegrate wholesomely in our society. And that is what the Elevate program is about. Just to give you some background, we have done manuals that were informed by the participants through focus groups and interviews and collecting scientific data. And then we had specialists and those who are the experts to put those manuals together. So our manuals are actually homegrown. And we trained a set of trainers who are training others. And so Elevate is on an elevated path, which can be viewed by any of you, can be viewed by any entity inside or outside of St. Kitts, because it is transparent and open, and we want to set it up in a way so that it can really help those who need help, and not to use a program to embezzle money to fill the pockets of politicians as it did previously. I want to also say that we, apart from the technology, we have invested significantly also in the human resource and training. We have extended our collaboration with our international partners as well. We have introduced new ways in national security, which I would not speak to and would give the opportunity to the experts in national security to speak to them. But what I wanted to say here is that we have taken national security to another level. And when it comes to diversion and so forth, we have also increased the number of sea cadets, which I've asked that we expand. So we expect to see a larger number of cadets on parade. When it comes to our programs within the police force, our NIT program, we have expanded that as well. And we are now to relaunch our Explorers group as well. So we'll have the cadets in its full complement. We will have the other programs in their full complement, including the Explorers Club. And just to let you know, we have restarted the MAGIC program. For those of you who don't know what the MAGIC program is, it was stopped in 2015 when the government changed. It's a program where officers go to the schools and really inculcate knowledge of dealing with issues of young people and to divert them away from life of crime and violence and gangs or criminal organizations. We had our first graduation just recently at the Molyneux Primary School. And so we have taken the approach to go full force when it comes to national security, but not just in an aggressive way to take away people's rights. But as you can see, it is multi-pronged. And underpinning that is to deal with violence from a public health perspective. St. Kitts and Nevis has been the first to set up its task force in the CARICOM. CARICOM has now started, but we have started before them. Because if you remember what I was saying, is that the Caribbean had entered into a very dangerous space. And if we did not act quickly, we would end up in a dark space. We see that some countries across the Caribbean have been blacklisted because of what has happened with respect to their crime situation and so forth. Because after COVID, the analysis was done and we recognized that that would have been a major issue. But we acted very quickly and aggressively here in St. Kitts and Nevis. There's much work to be done, but I'm simply saying, had we not done that, I am sure we would have ended up where others have gone. But we were able to avert that and we continue to work to strengthen. So I'm asking the community to join with the security apparatus, to help the security apparatus to make us even a safer space here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The other issue I would touch on is the issue of mental health. We know I was speaking about mental health since about 2020. I think people like Ike can remember, even before the government then started a COVID update, I organized a COVID update with myself, Dr. Patrick Martin, Dr. Lawrence, and Dr. Sharon Archibald, who is now the PS of Health. And Dr. Archibald was introduced to that panel to speak specifically to mental health. Because as a practicing doctor, I saw what was coming. And I said, we have to see how we can get in front of it so that we can at least, even though we will not be able to totally prevent it, let us see how we can mitigate it, at least by starting to sensitize people about the issues and matters of mental health. And so if you were to look at the data, the United States is reporting that about 50% of their adult population was referring some sort of mental health issue after COVID. That is a significant impact that it had on them, and it also had on the Caribbean and even here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have started some work on that. We were proactive with dealing with violence from a public health perspective, which is being led by a psychiatrist, Dr. Isben Williams. And I've spoken about this multiple times. So we are not waiting for something to happen to act. We look at the data and we seek to get ahead. However, even though you can't prevent it 100%, you would always seek to mitigate the situation. And I would also add that the government is also seeking to have in its fleet of counselors, psychiatrists, or those who are in the mental health space, a child psychologist who we will have on board soon. And in addition to that, I spoke to the PS and we are moving, as is in the estimate, as I was informed as well, to get our mental health space so that people can get improved care as a result. I also want to touch on the issue, as I seek to wrap up soon, on the issue of the main road in St. Peter's. As you know, St. Peter's, which is the largest area, according to the census, outside of Bastia in St. Kitts and Nevis and growing. St. Peter's, the main road to St. Peter's was neglected and excluded from the rehabilitation of the island main road. I spoke about it and I said that under a Labour administration, we will correct that for all of the residents of St. Peter's. And so there is a town hall meeting this Thursday at the community center in St. Peter's to discuss the main road. The main road the work has started significantly, but the actual work which you'll see, which has also started, will be, of course, ratcheted up within the next week to 2 weeks. So before the month end, we will see significant work started on the St. Peter's main road. Let me just update you on the issue of water. Just to say that the water situation in St. Kitts and Nevis continues to be challenging. The minister will speak more to it, of course, but I speak to it as a representative for constituency number 8. And I want to say to you that relief is coming. The well has been dug. We have found water. The water is now being pumped, and we will, of course, have a ceremony to really signify the starting of pumping that water to the Keon area. And with pumping more water to the Keon area, the water that comes from Green Hill that is divided between Keon and St. Peter's, more of that will go to the St. Peter's end. And that will help to resolve the issues of water on the St. Peter's end. And if you resolve it, then the water that comes from the town area to go to St. Peter's, more of that can remain in town. And then you'll have more water in town, Frigate Bay, and Southeast. And so this area is expected to be resolved. So I think within a week or two, very, very soon, we will have that ceremony to commence officially the well's contribution to our water here in St. Kitts and Nevis, specifically Keon, the environs, and the St. Peter's area, which will also benefit. And so I wanted to update us on those significant developments. Of course, there are much more. And lastly, to say that the OECS meeting, I am the chair of OECS presently, will be held here this week. We start tomorrow, Wednesday. We also have council meeting, monetary council meeting here in St. Kitts and Nevis at the ECCB. So we expect all the prime ministers or the ministers of finance from across the sub-region to be there. And I wanted to add something. I know I just said lastly that our renal transplant program has started. It is the first in St. Kitts and Nevis. Everything is in place to receive our first patients. There are 2 interested families, but I'm going to extend that service to the rest of the OECS so that our brothers in Antigua, and if you go down to Grenada, St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and Dominica, and so forth, so that they can also have access to our renal transplant program. As I said, when I became the president, or the chair rather, of the OECS last year, that I encourage all islands or countries to have a center of excellence. St. Kitts and Nevis will create 2 centers of excellence. I know we can do one for radiology based on the support we get from Germany and what we'll have, but we'll create 2 centers of excellence where our people across the region can benefit. It will be our renal transplant program, our nephrology services, and the second one will be our sickle cell program. Remember again, when I returned from Germany in 2020, I said that I had consulted with the sickle cell department of a major university, and we will transplant their services here in the Caribbean so that we don't only treat sickle cell, but that we start to cure sickle cell. Nephrology is already started and on its way, and I want to thank the team and Dr. Hakim from the UK, who is leading on that. But the sickle cell will come on later this year, and we will once again offer that service to our people in the region. I'm thinking that I can extend the service maybe to CARICOM and not just the OECS. So St. Kitts will leave two lasting legacy for our people: renal transplant for our people across the sub-region, and sickle cell care, leading to cure. Not just the treatment of sickle cell, but curing sickle cell will be another offering and legacy within healthcare delivery for St. Kitts and Nevis, of course, to the sub-region and across the CARICOM. But I haven't confirmed the CARICOM yet on the sickle cell services. When I go to CARICOM in a week or two, I will speak there and see what would be the response. But we can cure sickle cell and save a lot of lives here, as our populations are mainly Black West African descent. And with that, I want to thank all of you very, very much, and give, of course, other members of the cabinet an opportunity to present the highlights of their various ministries. Thank you very much. All right, so we will now continue and ask the Deputy Prime Minister to, if you want me to start from the end, I can. Okay, yes, we can start with Minister Iselin to update us.
Good morning. Thank you, PM. Good morning to everyone listening, media here in the room, as well as those who are joining us virtually and online. So for announcements, I'll make some brief updates and highlights as it pertains to the ministries for which I'm directly responsible. In the Ministry of Youth Empowerment, Aging and Disabilities, particularly we start with the Department of Youth Empowerment. At the end of this month, that's on February 28th and 29th, the Department of Youth Empowerment will be hosting a National Student Congress, where we will be bringing together representatives from all of the student school councils at both primary and high school level to be able to come together and discuss problems and solutions as it relates to violence in the schools and crime in the Federation as a whole. Now, this initiative in terms of hosting this activity and bringing student governments and student councils together is part of the crime prevention strategy that the National Task Force on Violence as a Public Health Issue is focusing at. So with this initiative, the Congress is hosted in partnership with the Ministry of Education, as well as in collaboration with representation from Ministry of Justice and Legal Affairs, the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services, and the National Task Force on Violence as a Public Health Issue. So the intention with this Congress is to be able to engage our young people and get them thinking about conflict, what are the problems, how we see violence manifesting in our schools, and for them as youth leaders to begin to think about what they can do, what changes can be made, and of course make suggestions to those in the room as to how we can all be part of the solution to be able to combat violence in all its forms, which then leads to a lot of crime that we see. So this initiative is how we're trying to engage the young people to make sure that they're also part of the all-of-society approach to combating crime and violence. So look forward to that. That will be February 28th and 29th. We will be hosting sessions for both primary school and secondary school student leaders. For the Department of Aging, I'm very pleased to announce, of course, if you haven't heard already, our seniors have resumed their Seniors Day programming at the original community centers, which are in Newtown, in St. Peter's, and in St. Paul's. Those centers resumed in February this month, and we plan to expand the program to start programs in Keon, Sandy Point, and Tabernacle in March. So the staff in the aging units are working towards expanding that program. And so you can look forward to new seniors program coming to communities near you that would have just been named. So that will be in March. But of course, the original centers are up and running. So want to extend an invitation to all of the seniors, able-bodied seniors who are interested and able. This is free programming that is opening to you. For our disability services unit within the ministry, the staff there have been engaging with private sector and working on getting consensus around ways that we can better accommodate persons with disabilities through empowerment cards. Those are conversations that are ongoing, which I understand are going pretty positively. Events to look forward to. Currently, they are planning for an International Women's Day Breakfast Symposium, which will be targeted to women with disabilities, to bring women with disabilities together to be able to talk about the issues, challenges that they experience as women, and to build some solidarity within the space. So that's what's happening in youth empowerment, aging, and disabilities, some highlights and announcements of good things to look forward to. In the Ministry of Social Development and Gender Affairs. So, of course, you would have heard from budget presentation that the poverty alleviation program, as we know it, would be transitioning and kind of coming to a closure to be able to launch LIFT. Now, the LIFT program is an improvement over the PAP program, as it is based on the lessons that would have been learned from the PAP experience. So the ministry right now is working on completing the design of that program and preparing to implement LIFT. I can say that the applications for LIFT will open by April 1st, and for that, we will be welcoming people to apply to the program as the new cash transfer social assistance program. LIFT as a program is better in a number of ways. Like I would have mentioned, it is a lot more thoughtfully developed and based on the lessons that we would have learned, and seeks to adopt best practices that focuses on the successes of the Mend and Rise programs, which were originally piloted in St. Kitts and in Nevis in 2014. So for LIFT, we will be welcoming applications from by the 1st of April. I would actually pause and allow the media to ask any questions specifically that would allow me time to speak to the plans for implementation in detail. As I understand, this is really just a 5-minute open session. So I will invite and welcome questions in relation to specifics on the LIFT program from the media a little later on. Thank you.
Yes, good morning and thank you. I am pleased to be here to update the nation and the world on matters regarding ministries under my purview. And these ministries include the Department of Creative Economy. And I want to tell all of you here that the Department of the Creative Economy is working extremely hard to ensure that our creative sector moves forward. Part of the work that they're doing now, after coming out a wonderful session with National Carnival and the launch of Carnival, as well as the welcome ceremony for the Icon of the Seas, there's also the Creative Arts Fund, where a number of artists are benefiting from grant funding in terms of their creative development. And so I encourage all creatives to continue applying to the Creative Arts Fund and ensure that your applications are up to the criteria, because so far we've already done quite a few activities with a number of creatives, empowering them in their creative roles. One of the things I'm also pleased to note from the creative economy is that last year we did extensive consultations with the creatives on the Creative Arts Center. And that Creative Arts Center is on its way now. I understand that some engineers should be here in March. And once the engineers get here in March, then they're ready to go into a level of groundbreaking, and we should be seeing that Creative Arts Center being delivered to St. Kitts and Nevis sometime there soon. So I'm excited to announce that it is looking really bright in the area of creatives. Of course, we continue to empower creatives in their support to travel, perform overseas, and we have a number of creatives where we have supported them with their artist visas. We've supported them to travel to overseas engagement, and of course we have our ambassador, DJ Terrance, who is traveling the world representing and raising the flag of St. Kitts and Nevis with the support of the creative economy. And so as a matter of the creative economy, it is looking extremely bright. Another department under my ministry of sports and the creative economy is the Department of Culture. Now, in that department, we've engaged our artists, our visual artists that is, on a number of projects around the country to paint murals. One of the ideas behind that concept was that we were losing our history and our heritage and our connection to our past. And we wanted to ensure that our people understood how deeply entrenched we are with the successes of our past. And so we got Mr. Leonard Stapleton to conduct a number of sessions with our visual artists to teach them about their history, teach them about the past and developments that our country has gone through over the centuries. And those artists use that information to start creating their art pieces. And we would have seen possibly on the mansion wall some art being worked on there, on the stadium wall at St. Paul's, down Date Bay, and a number of, even on the wall at the Newtown playing field. And we have chosen a number of locations around the country where our visual artists are currently painting murals depicting the strength and the power of our history and our people and our successes over the years. So that's one of the important aspects that we are doing in the Department of Culture. Of course, there's quite a bit going on, but for the sake of time, I would continue into the area of sports, which is another department under that ministry. Now, in the area of sports, we are in the heat of the athletic season, and we all know that. The schools and the students have been performing well. So far, our Carifta qualifiers suggest that we probably will be seeing one of the largest Carifta teams traveling to Grenada this year to perform in the Carifta Games. And so I think that is worth commending, that our athletes are performing extremely well. Of course, we know that the inter-school championships this year will go between the stadium in St. Kitts and our next national stadium, which is in Nevis. And we will be sharing that inter-school championship between both stadiums. Unfortunately, we know that the work has begun but not completed at the Kim Collins Stadium. Last year, we saw what the responses were with the dilapidated stadium that we inherited. And we made a commitment to start working on the stadium, and we have stuck to that commitment. Unfortunately, due to processes and times, the work has not yet completed, but we continue to be steadfast in our commitment to working on that stadium and delivering a world-class stadium for our athletes and our patrons to be able to be comforted and enjoy sports. But in the meantime, the show must go on. And so as we continue to work on the stadium, we do have a secondary stadium in Nevis, and we intend to use all resources available to us to ensure that the show goes on. And so we will be doing what we can do at the Kim Collins Stadium Thursday and Friday, and the track events will be taken to Nevis in our second stadium to ensure that our people can perform at the highest standard and do their work and be ready for Carifta when it comes this year. As it relates to the area of agriculture, as I move on, because I have a few minutes, we continue to work in agriculture. We are steadfast in our efforts to meet our 25 by 25 agenda. We have since had 100+ farmers who have signed on and given their commitment to ensure that they are able to be a part of sharing that $50 million. Because our target sees us trying to achieve $50 million worth of productivity locally, and our farmers have determined they want to be a part of sharing in that $50 million. And so to date, 100 and just about 51 or 52 farmers to date, I think, have been signed on to that program. But beyond that, we continue to put in the infrastructure to support the program as well, because we recognize our farmers have a duty to produce, but we have a duty to support. And in that regard, we are pleased to note that the hatchery project at the Bayfords Livestock Center is well underway. The Taiwanese have stepped in. Last year we signed the Memorandum of Understanding, and the hatchery project is just about ready, approaching completion, and I understand somewhere between March, April, we should be able to open the doors to production in our hatchery. To connect with the hatchery, we have also put in this year's budget for a slaughtering facility for poultry, and I'm pleased to know that that is also underway. So once we have the hatchery, we will then connect with the slaughtering facility, and our farmers can then raise the birds in the center of the production line and then have a nice ecosystem to tackle that $20 million of poultry product that we import. And we recognize if we import $20 million worth of poultry product every year, we must equip our farmers to partake in that area particularly. But there are other areas as well. There are areas of where we are advancing in technology. And we've always spoken about our greenhouse villages. And those greenhouse villages are well underway down in Brotherson's, where we are now erecting at this stage some 15 greenhouses, and we have another 20 greenhouses on the way, already procured, but on the way in terms of shipping. And we should be erecting those in a few months. They should take about maybe 4 months to get here, and then the work will start in erecting those greenhouses. But all in all, in agriculture, the 25 by 25 agenda is achievable, and we're well on the way of achieving that. Our farmers are optimistic. We've had meetings with them consistently, but particularly I had a meeting with them last night, especially those that are growing in the areas of melons. And those farmers are ready, not just to supply St. Kitts, but they believe we could supply enough that St. Kitts could be adequately supplied, and the region could also be supplied as well. So I am with the optimism of the farmers, because I do believe that St. Kitts has what it takes to become a food mecca in this part of the region. And as I continue in agriculture, the other department I wish to touch on is fisheries, because we've been doing significant work in fisheries sector. The Date Bay Cooperative, we have approved plans now to develop a new building for the cooperative structure in Date Bay, so that they can enhance the operations. And we also have a commitment from the Japanese government to fund a fisheries complex in Date Bay. We have done extensive work on the Bastia Fisheries building, and that is fully functioning, serving fresh fish to our people basically on a daily basis. We have a secondary fisheries building in Old Road, and that one, I am told, by March 27th or thereabout, should open its doors similar to Bastia Fisheries and serve fresh fish on a daily basis to our people. The whole idea is to produce more, supply more, and ensure that our people can eat locally produced and sourced food, because we recognize that our sustainable practices are healthier and much better for our people. The other area I wish to touch on is the area of small business and entrepreneurship and cooperatives. That ministry is doing exceptionally well, ensuring that they engage monthly with our young business people, our small businesses. We've done a number of training sessions throughout last year. We've done a number of training sessions ensuring that they understand financial management, they understand sales and marketing, making sure they understand the entire process of developing a business, doing a business plan, and all the different components that will determine success for our small business sector. So far, the business sector has been complementing it. I had a conversation with one of our foremost businessmen, and he said to me, you know, I have never seen this type of energy and focus on small business, on the small business sector ever in the history of this country. And that is Mr. Wendell Lawrence who had said that to me. And I believe his word could be carried with significant weight. If he said that, then we must recognize that it means something. And so I'm happy to be leading that at this time and ensuring that the sector is developing. And while I don't want to take all the time in the room, I want to ensure that the people of this country know that this team has been working hard, and I myself am committed to continue working hard for the development of our countries, in whichever area it is vested in me to do so. And as the minister responsible for these areas, I will continue doing everything that I can for its development. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Minister. Comprehensive indeed. I know the press is waiting to ask questions, so we'll give them a little time to ask questions. But I know your ministries are extensive. So I'll go now to Minister Henderson.
Good morning, all, and I will take the cue from the Honorable Prime Minister in terms of, being brief. This morning, I'm happy for the opportunity to provide updates on the ministries that I am honored to be leading at this time. Firstly, permit me to just give some brief updates as it relates to the Ministry of Labor and Employment. As you may be aware, in December, we had an increase in the national minimum wage, and one of the things the National Minimum Wage Committee recommended was that we have a productivity council and a task force that manages the increase in the minimum wage. There were a number of recommendations made, and I'm happy to report this morning that we're now in a position to put before the cabinet the names and persons for the productivity council. This council is supposed to be in place starting for 16 months before there's the new increase. So 16 months, they will monitor and provide data, stakeholder engagement, and all the other things in the process of monitoring the increase. They are going to be providing quarterly reports to the Ministry of Labor and Employment that would then be provided to the cabinet. We are in the process at the ministry as well we're discussing the regulations that we want to put before the Attorney General's chambers for discussions to have the mechanism in place, because we've heard the complaints as it relates to price gouging. And one of the things we did before we even moved to increase the national minimum wage was to have the Consumer Protection Act passed. I think it was late last year. And so we are hearing the complaints, and we are going to trigger what we need to have the mechanism put in place to monitor the price gouging, as some persons have complained. As we are also in the Ministry of Labor and Employment, working towards looking to introducing the labor code. So we are to meet with the tripartite committee. We met late last year. Members of the team, they are working on the respective pieces of legislation that would form part of the labor code. And of course, we want to introduce the labor code hopefully sometime later this year or early next year, based on what recommendations come out of the tripartite committee. The tripartite committee is made up of members from the labor market, the ministry, so the unions, and of course the employers, which is the, what is that called? Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We think the introduction of the labor code, of course, helps to keep us abreast with the relevant international standards. So we have to make sure that all laws, are updated regularly, and of course to protect and ensure that we have proper labor relations in St. Kitts and Nevis. As it relates to the Ministry of Tourism, and I want to be brief, we continue our efforts to increase the visibility of the St. Kitts brand. And of course, this is not meant, there's some talk about St. Kitts and Nevis, but we market two separate products. So the St. Kitts Tourism Authority is responsible for the promotion of the St. Kitts brand, and the Nevis Tourism Authority is responsible for the promotion of the Nevis brand. My updates this morning relate to the St. Kitts brand. Of course, we have a strategic plan, and it is in keeping with converting our destination from being a seasonal destination. So we have a high season from November, which is the winter season when most of our visitors come, to the end of April when it starts warming up. For us, we think we can convert, and we're actually on track to converting our destination to a year-round destination as opposed to seasonal. We've been seeing the fruits of all our efforts in terms of the robust marketing campaigns in our core markets, and our core markets, of course, are in the U.S., the northern parts of the U.S., in the Caribbean, in Canada, and of course in the U.K. We are seeing the fruits of the campaign. It means increased visibility means stimulating more demand for the destination. And so we've seen extension of service from our legacy carriers. For example, American Airlines they have extended their service from April to August. So if that means eventually it would be from November to November. And this is of course to JFK. We have daily service out of Miami. But when it relates to JFK, it's seasonal, and it's from November to April. But they've seen the increase in demand for the destination, and they've extended their service to April. Forgive me, to August. Similarly, the service out of to Charlotte, St. Kitts, Charlotte, has been extended as well to August. So it's now from November to August. And we're working slowly to get it from November to November year-round. United Airlines as well, they've extended their service to August. So from November, we will have service. The service will not end in April, but we will go up until August. This covers periods like Music Festival and all the other events we have in our summer fund. So it's strategic. So it means then we would only have 2 slow months, being September and October, and then boom, back again in November. We come with the legacy carriers. So hopefully we can, get the service year round. We've had additional flights from Winair and Intercaribbean. And so it shows that the campaign or marketing campaigns are resonating in the markets where they need to resonate. We now have year-round service from JetBlue. And of course, we know that when there's a new flight, it takes some time to gain traction. But we are doing embarking on a number of initiatives to ensure that we remain visible. For example, this week we launched our car swarm, like a bee swarm and insect swarm. I'm sure a number of you would have seen the video with a number of St. Kitts branded vehicles in a highly trafficked area in New York where the demographic of our visitors live and work. So we launched the car swarm there. Next month, and I'm saying this for the public, I intend to travel for the Roots Conference where I would meet with international carriers, and that's all the legacy carriers that we currently have flying into the destination, and hopefully we intend to meet with other carriers. The meeting is to discuss how we have been performing on the routes, how the flights have been doing, and of course the expansion of routes and how we can work together to even add more seats. We also intend, and that's the team at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, we intend to meet with the travel and trade media in May. And of course, that is to make sure that St. Kitts remains in the forefront of the minds of our visitors and of the different media houses, and so that we continue to remain relevant. We are satisfied with the traction of the new JetBlue flight. Of course, I can't say at this stage, I can't give the details because of the agreement we have with our partner, but we are satisfied, and we are slowly closing the gap and returning to pre-pandemic figures. When you do the comparison between now and 2019, we can see the gap being closed. And so we're happy with the work. We do have a lot more work to do. I want to, at this time, Prime Minister, allow me to just thank our hard-working and dedicated teams at the Ministry of Tourism and those at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, and all our partners, those at SCASPER and UDC and all the other agencies who continue the work in tourism. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. Certainly comprehensive, and your work has redounded really in the advancement of tourism in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I think it's very, very clear. I'll now turn it over to Minister of Public Works, Energy Tal, the Honorable Conway Maynard.
Thank you, Mr. PM. And please excuse my cough. I'm covering from a little, what is it called? Whatever it's called. So first I will start with Public Works. As you know, we have undertaken to get the St. Peter's Main Road done. All of the preliminary work is done, all the designing, etc. The procurement process, everything is now complete, and the works have begun. On Thursday at 6 p.m., the Prime Minister mentioned it, we'll have a town hall meeting for the St. Peter's community at the St. Peter's Community Center, so that all the questions associated with the project can be answered. The project is a large project, so it's a multifaceted approach. It involves multiple stakeholders, including, for instance, utility companies, I'm aware that the contractor and Public Works had their meetings with the utilities to make sure that there are no undue interruptions or disruptions of services. Excuse me. Because as you know, when you dig into the ground, etc., there will be utility lines from water, electricity, and from cable, perhaps even flow, and we want to ensure that there's no undue interruption. So all of those plans are ongoing. Public Works would have announced that there will be a property condition survey where some folks from Public Works will probably come to your residence if you live anywhere along the route of the road that is from the roundabout by the airport right across the roundabout above Shadwell Housing and then upwards into Odgie's Gut. That's what it's called, PM? Odgie's? Yes, all the way up to there. So if you live anywhere along that path, you can look out for someone coming to you inquiring about the present status of your building to ensure that if there's any work done on the road and if something happens, there's a record before and after so that a comparative analysis would be done. I want to commend our efforts in the ministry for the improved PWD communications. We are now trying to push a lot of information and will start to push a lot of information through our Facebook page. So I would want to invite persons to like the Public Works Department St. Kitts Facebook page where you can get regular updates about what Public Works is doing and get notices and advisories. For instance, just before the rains came, Public Works would have put out a notice informing persons who live in areas where we have unpaved roads of what our process is and how we intend to address them. So you would have been able to see ahead of time that one, Public Works would not respond to the situation until all of the rains were finished because it would not be safe for them to do so. And it would have provided contact information so that anyone who lives in those areas can inform Public Works so that they can be adequately scheduled for repair. We have many, many, many miles of unpaved roads, and we have to partner with private contractors to get the work done because we simply do not have the resources within Public Works to attend to all of those. So that work will now be ongoing. And if you have challenges, of course, you can go to the Facebook page and it has all the contact information. We also had in the Ministry of Public Infrastructure et al. A Christmas internship program where persons in the CFBC and I think maybe some high school students had an opportunity to intern at Public Works and Public Infrastructure. This will be an ongoing program to facilitate young minds having a look at this technical aspect in government and see if this might be a potential career path for them in the future, whether in engineering and design, architecture, and all of those different technical programs. The road maintenance program continues. As you know, since we've taken the administration, we no longer try to simply just fill a pothole and just fill it and run over it. That those days are done unless, of course, the road will be completely removed in a short time. Public Works now removes surrounding areas of the potholes such that a wider area can be paved to prevent reoccurrence of that particular area. And so you would see that it will take a little longer now in order to get to the spots in the road. But when they are done, we don't have to go back to that specific area anymore. And I want to commend them for the work they're doing. Again, the resources, the amount of work to be done is severely stretching the resources that are available. But the ministry is working to expand the road repair crew so that we can attend to more maintenance in a faster period of time. You would have seen, or I just want to announce here that in December, we would have gotten approval for the creation of the deputy director position at Public Works. Excuse me. And that is now out for advertising, and I think the deadline is this Friday for anyone who is interested in filling the deputy director position of Public Works. This is a new position, and it is part of our mandate to improve the efficiency at the Public Works Department. We had also gotten approval last year for some additional technical staff, and so we're making every effort at Public Works to improve our efficiency and our ability to deal with to manage many of the projects that are undertaken across the country. With respect to our energy unit, we are furthering discussions for the feed-in tariff policy of the government, and the unit, is hoping that a draft policy should be ready this quarter so that energy stakeholders can have a review before it becomes the final policy on the feed-in tariff. This feed-in tariff will allow persons to have renewable energy and put it into the grid and be able to get payment for it. So that is should be completed very soon, and hopefully a draft policy will be out for this quarter. Sorry. At present, there is a team from the Saudi Fund for Development visiting our ministry here in St. Kitts and also in Nevis as we have further discussions on the geothermal development. This is coming, of course, after meetings that we have had last year on the sidelines of CARICOM with our Prime Minister and officials from Nevis, with my own meetings with the Saudi Fund for Development in Dubai at COP28. We followed up that with virtual meetings with the fund earlier this year, and we're happy now that they are presently visiting St. Kitts and Nevis to do an ongoing analysis of the geothermal project, in order to partner with us to get this project going once and for all. As you know, we went to Parliament to confirm that the federal government and the federal parliament views this as a national resource that must be fully explored. And we are sticking to that commitment. And so we're happy that the team is here. They've met with the Prime Minister. They've met with the ministries here in St. Kitts. We are heading over to Nevis today to meet with, obviously, the Premier and the relevant stakeholders in Nevis, and to visit the geothermal sites, or some of the geothermal sites that have already been identified. The Saudi Fund for Development is very excited about partnering with us on this project, and we hope to have a successful partnership in the very, very near future. With respect to water, again, we are also improving our communication outfit at water. I want you to go and like our Facebook page, St. Kitts Water Services Department. Here you will get regular updates about water outages, emergency outages, and updates about what is happening with water, so that you don't have to be wondering. And also you will see the contact information there. So please go and like these pages so that you can be updated on critical information. The Keon well is now well advanced. We have one more significant step that remains. I want to confirm that a second set of tests have been done on the potability of the water, and the results meet all of the WHO standards. The well has actually now been connected to our water system and undergoing testing. However, due to the amount of water that we have found in the well, we will actually need a larger pump. BEAD has confirmed that that pump has been already procured and should be in St. Kitts within a week or two. Once this is connected in the coming weeks, we will then be able to turn on the well for good for Keon. Put your hands together for that. And this will go a long way in solving the water problems that Keon has experienced for so many years. But it doesn't just stop in Keon. Because of the size of the well, we are hoping that it will reach to other communities close by. Additionally, we will be undertaking the procurement of 1 million gallon storage tank in the Keon area to be able to hold enough water for now and over the next 30 years as the community continues to expand. Once we get this water in Keon, the Prime Minister mentioned already that we will be able to take some of the water that normally goes to Keon and go to other communities. I think this is a good place for me to say and explain the impact of climate change on us. Having a lot of rain in a short period of time is not a good thing for our system. Yes, we are glad that we get a whole bunch of rain in 2 or 3 days, but in reality, we would love if that rain comes in smaller portions over a longer period of time. Why? Take, for instance, St. Peter's. St. Peter's gets some of its water from runoff water, that is surface water. When the rains comes as heavy as they do, it erodes the soils and erodes the areas around where that water is collected. It means the water becomes more silty. It means it cannot go into the system until after some period of time. So although it's raining heavily, people will ask, well, why is it that I'm not getting water? Well, if you are in an area that uses surface water, the water becomes unusable for a time. And we actually have to wait for it to settle. Otherwise, it will compromise the entire system. So having a lot of rain all at once is not actually a good thing. And it really sets back the operation. And that is an impact of climate change. We're not supposed to be having these big downpours just in 1 or 2 or 3 days. So in an area like St. Peter's, when you would have had that surface water, and this would happen in other areas like Wingfield and so on, etc., sometimes you realize that when rain comes, your water might get a little bit more silty. That is as a result of that. But once it is steady, once it calms down, once the water permeates the soil and goes to the different catchments, underground, etc., where it comes out as well water or water that runs off from higher locations, then it is more usable. So I was saying some of that runoff water that usually goes to Keon will now also go to St. Peter's. So that will increase the amount of water available for the residents of St. Peter's. Additionally, because people have continued to build in certain areas like Keon and St. Peter's, there are some people that are at very close elevations to the present storage tanks. When those storage tanks get lower, it doesn't have enough pressure to service persons that are close to the elevations of those tanks. So you will find that some residents in the same area have water and some do not. That is because of the levels that are in the tanks. And so that is why we need more source to keep our tanks topped up so that we have enough pressure to feed the surrounding area. So I just wanted to add that very critically. The next step, of course, is the Shadwell well, and plans are ongoing to address the Shadwell well. That will help the Basti area and also the St. Peter's area. I want to confirm that Dr. Roland Hogue of Bear Rock Consulting has completed the first round of review of all the geophysical, hydrogeological, and geological data that we have here in St. Kitts. And he has made his recommendations as to the next steps, as to where we're going to find, where we're going to do the next set of drilling to get groundwater. The Attorney General's office has confirmed that the contract agreement for the new desalination plant is just about ready for sign-off. And so we should be signing that contract very shortly for the construction of the 2 million gallon desalination plant, which is proposed to be located on the industrial site where the Texaco bulk facility used to be. This is right next to the ocean, actually, and it's an ideal location for the capture of water and then the distribution to nearby 2 million gallon storage in Bird Rock and even reaching storage as far as Lagreet. We had evaluated 3 proposals, and Royal Utilities was the selected developer. And so the contract will be signed with Royal Utilities, and we are at the final stages of that. With respect to the Buckley's uprising, so that's a very important milestone. And once the contract is signed, we anticipate that construction will take maybe up to about 8 months to get this additional 2 million gallons of water into our system. The Buckley's Uprising Committee has launched a public design competition of the Buckley's Uprising Monument Park. The specific scope of works and details of that will be released shortly, but we have announced that the grand prize will be $15,000.
You're doing very well.
I'm going to finish now and then. Will be $15,000. I will just take this opportunity now to move on to another. So I'm finished, and I'm moving on to another minister who is not present and would like me to read her very brief statements. That's the Minister for Sustainable Development, Dr. Joel Clark. She just wanted to update that the land program, the specialization regularization program, continues. All persons allocated land before 2022 can pay for their lands. The distribution of lands has also started in earnest. 2022 lands are being confirmed based on present developments. The process of verification on Thursdays also continue. With respect to environment, the ministry continues its work on critical projects. The ministry is about to launch its consultation phase for the Sustainable Island State Agenda. The ministry will be connecting with all stakeholders, livelihood groups, and development partners as we align the agenda with the existing national development plans. The Empowerment Program will soon launch a special vulnerability assistance program in response to our hurricane readiness program for vulnerable households. And finally, the program will work in partnership with NHC and Ministries of Human Settlement and Finance to provide direct relief to the most vulnerable and indigent groups. That is a brief statement from the Minister of Sustainable Development, Dr. Joel Clark, Honorable Dr. Joel Clark. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Definitely a lot to report and a lot for the press to digest. And to reiterate that the land payment program has restarted. As you know, the minister would have reported all the irregularities that were found, and those had to be cleared up as there were issues, legal issues that had to be sorted through as well. And we spent the time making sure that we got it right, and we have gotten it mostly right. We just have some more work to be done. Nonetheless, the land distribution program has restarted. I'll now pass on to the Attorney General, the Honorable Gad Wilkin.
Good morning to everyone. The Attorney General's office has started the year by preparing for our first parliamentary sitting, which is scheduled for Thursday, February 22nd. That is next week. In the 15 months since this session of Parliament first opened, the National Assembly has tabled 33 new laws and debated and passed 30. So that is 2 laws per month. We want to continue on that trajectory. We've been working hard over the past few weeks and are now finalizing for tabling next week between 7 to 10 new laws, some of which I've spoken of before, such as the Anti-Smuggling of Migrants Bill, the National Productivity Council Bill, which you heard the Minister Responsibility for Labour spoke about, a new procurement bill, a new copyright bill, and an amendment to the Public Accounts Committee Act. I know the Minister next to me is very happy about that. We also put in finishing touches on the Community Beautification and Safety Bill, which will create a system by which landowners must keep their lots cleared. Otherwise, the state will intervene, clear it, and any money spent to clear the land will attach to property taxes. We're just putting our finishing touches on that. We also have 2 major legislative projects for the first half of 2024. That is a full review of the Vehicles and Road Traffic Act to introduce the demerit system, safety policies, regulation of non-taxi cars for hire, popularly known as Ubers. We have to ensure that the business people who operate these Ubers and passengers are protected. We're also going to introduce new tint and personalized license plate policies. Our roads are not safe. It's getting worse day by day. So we therefore must do what we need to to ensure that once you traverse the roads of St. Kitts and Nevis, that you are as safe as you can be. So we're going to undertake that project in the first 6 months of this year. Also, we have a very ambitious criminal justice reform project to ensure that we have a more efficient and fair criminal justice system. We've committed, when I say we, St. Kitts and Nevis has committed to the policies and principles contained in the Needham Point Declaration on Criminal Justice Reform in the Caribbean. I am pleased to inform our people that the Caribbean Court of Justice has asked me to serve on the Monitoring, Evaluation, and Facilitation Committee, which will ensure that these common policies which the Caribbean nations have agreed to will become a reality for our people throughout the region. And naturally, if we're on the operational committee, we must lead by example. So I have already had various discussions with the Justice Committee, as well as the Director of Public Prosecutions, who's keen on the criminal justice reform. And we plan to table sweeping reform laws by July this year. This week, we're meeting with various PSs from the ministries to discuss their individual legislative agendas for 2024 as well. We've already started working on establishing the Constituency Boundaries Commission, which we aim to be in place and start their work by the end of this month. We're also seeking to further strengthen the Integrity in Public Life Commission and that office, which now has 99% compliance. They're ready to work. Good governance is no longer just talk, it is now in action. And I just want to remind all public officials that the next deadline they need to be concerned about is April 30th, 2024, where all public officials will have to declare their assets and their liabilities as at December 31st, 2023, and their income over the year 2023. With respect to our courts, we're in the process of recruiting additional magistrates to ensure efficiency in the 3 districts of the magistrates' courts. And I'm pleased to say for the first time since the pandemic, the Court of Appeal will be physically sitting in St. Kitts and Nevis during the week of February 26th to March 1st. I encourage our citizens to come to Fort Lands, to the court during your lunch break, after work, to see how justice works firsthand. And lastly, I'm happy to report that the Access to Justice Authority, which I'm very proud of, will become fully operational in March 2024. We got the budget for it in this budget, and in line with our commitment to the UN SDG 16, which is to promote peaceful and inclusive societies for sustainable development, provide access to justice for all, and build effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. We have fully formulated the plan for the AJA, SKN, and we've recruited the officers. And now we are satisfied that we are ready for launch, so we'll have a press event for the launch of the Access to Justice Authority. It will have a revised legal aid and advice department, which will provide free or subsidized professional legal representation and advice in relation to civil and family matters to eligible individuals. And they will also, very importantly, coordinate legal aid clinics throughout the Federation, St. Kitts and Nevis. We're also going to have a public defenders department, which will provide free or subsidized professional legal representation and advice in relation to criminal and juvenile offender matters to eligible individuals. And also the Mediation and Restorative Justice Department, which will provide free or subsidized professional mediation and restorative justice services throughout the Federation. Central to restorative justice is the facilitated dialogue between the victim and the offender, allowing them to express their feelings, discuss the impact of the crime, and work towards resolution. We're very proud of the establishment of this AJA, Access to Justice Authority, and it signifies a commitment to upholding the rule of law and ensuring that justice is accessible to all members of our society, despite their income levels. And throughout this approach, the AJA aims to promote fairness, equality, and dignity within the legal system. So I'm very happy that we're almost at the finish line, and I look forward to the press coming to our event when we launch the AJA next month. That is all I have to report, Honourable Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, AG. You keep the Parliament busy. I'll now pass on to Senior Minister, former Prime Minister, the Honourable Dr. Denzel Douglas.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, Chairman of Cabinet, and coordinator, of course, of this press conference. I'd like to say good morning to the members of the press and to our citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, those who are here, resident at home, and those, of course, who are listening to this very important update from the Cabinet of St. Kitts and Nevis, those who are in the diaspora. As you're aware, the areas that I cover in the in the Cabinet of this country are of various departments. Foreign affairs, international trade, industry, commerce and consumer affairs, and economic development and investment. And so I would want to start very, very quickly, because I think we need to get some questions. I want to start very quickly on where we are in terms of our foreign affairs and our international relations with countries around the world, in the region and beyond, who are our friends, and also those institutions. So bilaterally, I would say that we continue to have very good relationship with a number of countries. India is one that I mentioned first, mainly because only recently we had the benefit of a new High Commissioner of India to St. Kitts and Nevis. Of course, he is resident in Guyana, but serves also for several Eastern Caribbean countries, St. Kitts and Nevis being one of them. India, because India is the fastest growing economy, I believe, in the world, or at least in the Western Hemisphere. And India continues to provide... Eastern Hemisphere, sorry. And India continues to provide quite a bit of opportunities for our training, especially in the areas that we have identified that we would want to grow our country in the next few years. Technology. We have asked for support in sports management, for example, training in technology, training in providing the basic skills that are going to be needed if we truly move our country from its dependence upon fossil fuel to geothermal and to green energy, etc. India is one of those countries that is available to provide the basic training of our people who will then be working in those new emerging industries once we have made the transition. So that continues to be very, very important to us. In fact, we're taking it further. We have made requests of the Indian government to date for 2 honorary consuls to be in Mumbai and also in Bangalore, apart from, of course, our expression of interest in having a new High Commissioner appointed for St. Kitts and Nevis in New Delhi. So India is becoming more and more and increasingly important to us. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is that country that we had a bilateral with and a multilateral, multinational, I would say, cooperation agreement, when just last year we had our first summit in Saudi Arabia in November of last year. Saudi Arabia has asked us to establish an embassy in Saudi Arabia. Before that, we had already requested the government to provide us an agreement so that we would have one of our honorary consuls established there. Saudi Arabia continues to be, again, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. In fact, they have told you that within the next 20 years, they will be one of the 3 or 4 economic giants in the world. Saudi Arabia is important to St. Kitts and Nevis, and we will continue to consolidate our relationship with that country so that we can get the benefits that have been yielded there. United States of America. Of course, normally we will say United States first, but the United States continues to be our strongest ally globally. Our strongest ally globally. not only in terms of being the recipient of trade from St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, the United States continues to be our strongest trading partner globally. All those factories, industrial estate, most of their goods, if not all, go into the US market. And so that continues to be of critical importance to us, apart from the political role that the United States government plays globally. And so I want to again emphasize that as we develop our bilateral relationship with countries, United States of America, Saudi Arabia, and India are critical among those. In fact, later today, the United States ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis, Barbados, and Eastern Caribbean countries would be calling upon our government today. Firstly, our Governor General, secondly, the Prime Minister, and I'll have the benefit later to also meet with him. This is because we must continue to have a deepening and consolidation of our relationship. Canada, of course, continues to be very important to us as well. In fact, again, I use this opportunity to thank High Commissioner Sherry Truss for her services and to indicate in this, maybe for the first time, that we've now received an agreement from the Canadian government to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Canada that Sherry Truss would be replaced by our own Mr. Berridge, who is scheduled to leave the country on the weekend to Ottawa and take up the new assignment there as our High Commissioner in Ottawa for Canada. That is important to us. The UAE, you remember, we were the first country in the Caribbean region to establish a presence, a consulate in UAE that was specifically in Dubai. In those days, a lot of tongues were wagging, all kinds of things. But today, they have been silenced because we advanced to an embassy in Abu Dhabi, the capital of the UAE, United Arab Emirates, that's what UAE means. And now we are considering as a government, we need to decide as a cabinet whether we would want to have a new consulate re-established in Dubai. Dubai is that city-state of the UAE, which continues to do exceptionally well in terms of investment opportunities. And so we would want to be back there so that we can benefit our people as much as possible. Now, I mentioned the relationship is bilateral and multilateral. And in terms of our multilateral relationship, before I do that though, let me speak of the regional commitment that we have as a country with our CARICOM partners. And of course, CELAC, that is those of the Caribbean and the wider Latin American region. And I want to specifically mention Haiti, because St. Kitts and Nevis continues to be part and parcel of the efforts to stabilize Haiti. Haiti continues to be a real troubling country for us in the Caribbean region, and if not in the world, in the Americas. And so I want to mention that later this afternoon, for instance, as we participate in the exercise, I would be joining my colleague foreign ministers as we would be engaging the United States Assistant Secretary for the Western Hemisphere on what is now known as the Haiti Multinational Security Support Mission. Remember last year we were talking about sending in a support mission to keep law and order and try to maintain the country as one of peace so that at least general elections can take place there. For over 3-4 years, they have not had the benefit of an elected president. And so we would want to make sure that that country returns to normalcy as quickly as possible. So that is important for us. We continue to be engaged. And also in Guyana, as you know, there is a troubling development and with regard to Venezuela, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. As you know, there is a dispute with regard to border and territory, and you would realize just last year in December, it was that our own Prime Minister participated in what was called the Declaration of Argyll in December the 14th of last year. And this was ratified in January 25th in Brasilia, in Brazil, this year, 2024. But now, we're having accusations being made that the declaration for continued peace and continued talk to settle this particular issue, that it is now failing. And accusations are being made on both sides that it appears as if the accord that was achieved is now being removed. And from this platform, we call again for both sides to really rationalize the commitment made to have the Latin America and the Caribbean region remain a zone of peace. We, as a country, St. Kitts and Nevis, to Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs, we will continue to urge both parties to try to settle dispute over the border between our two countries. Venezuela, important to us; Guyana, important to us; part of the Caribbean community. We would want to see peaceful settlement of the ongoing conflict. And this I mention because it is critically important to us. Both countries are important to us. Both countries have significant responsibilities for their citizens and the region and for the hemisphere. And so we would want things to settle down as much as possible. Now, looking very quickly and almost at an end to the multilateral situation that we engage in as a country, United Nations, just to inform you very quickly that we have a new permanent representative at the United Nations. She took up duties there. Her name is Mutrice Williams, and recruited from the United States of America, but from St. Kitts and Nevis. Continues to ensure that at that level, at that multilateral level, that we would be represented and we would add our own share of information and advice and support to matters of a multilateral nature that are being pursued at the United Nations. In fact, as we speak today, Dr. Clark is at that particular theater speaking on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis, on my behalf as a foreign minister, and on behalf of St. Kitts and Nevis, as Guyana would have taken over the leadership of the Security Council at the beginning of this year. So we are being represented. We have been asked to deliver a statement, especially on the ongoing climate situations and so forth, and we are represented at the UN. At the WTO, we continue to be represented as well, just to emphasize that we are partly engaged in the WTO presently in ensuring that the fisheries and the marine industries in our seas are protected for the benefit and the use and the exploit of our own people, rather than those coming from distant lands around the world and are illegally fishing in our waters. We want the WTO to continue to support us in that regard, and we in turn will lend them support at the WTO, the World Trade Organization. I want to very quickly move to the other parts of the ministry. I mentioned economic development and investment, just to say that we continue to make our efforts to bring in new opportunities for investment and in particular expand the economy of St. Kitts and Nevis. We have, you remember just a few weeks ago, we had the benefit of launching newest hotel to be in St. Kitts. We have received word from that company that they are expanding the investment that they had made in the Indigo Hotel. They, in fact, would want to expand that to be, and I want to quote correctly, that they would want to ensure that there is a tourist village with a water park established around and involving that new investment that they are making. And so I'm sure the Minister of Tourism is happy and smiling as people come forward to ensure that we can bring more people into our country for hospitality purposes. We also have something from some investors, developers who are the owners of Sunrise Airways Dominica Limited, who have again written to this government through its various ministries to want to partner with St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, to read here, we have identified St. Kitts and Nevis as a strategic partner of choice as the airline positions itself to work with countries to optimize connectivity in the Eastern Caribbean, particularly in the North-South corridor of the Eastern Caribbean. We are still attractive to investors, especially in the airline and also hospitality industries. With regard to our manufacturing sector, industry and commerce, we continue to encourage investment to fill our empty shells that we have on the industrial estates, continue to say that we are open to do business, and we would want persons who are interested in terms of employment of large numbers of people and with very reasonable labor cost to come to our shores and provide employment opportunities for our people. I want to say finally that you remember we did launch our Consumer Affairs Protection Bill. We are now looking at the regulations, and very shortly we would want to make sure that a number of promises and commitments made are pursued. We remember we said that we did not have officers who had the ability to adequately enforce infractions of the law. And so to remedy this particular situation, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis passed into law that CARICOM Consumer Protection Bill. And now we are taking it to the next level. We want to make sure that the board is set up, that persons are identified so that they can roam the business houses, they can not only roam the shops and so forth, but also will get into contractual arrangements of a different nature, apart from just the retail trade that we have traditionally monitored here in St. Kitts and Nevis. People who do business, whether it is in jewelry or in food items, and they are given contractual arrangements, I should say, are made in that type of transaction, whether or not they return to United Kingdom or United States of America, the agreements made with our salespeople here must be considered good at all times. That is an area that I believe is important to enhance our tourist industry and attract more visitors to return to our shores here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I will stop here. And
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. The second longest. I'll now turn it over to the Deputy Prime Minister.
Lot to report.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, and I can guarantee you that I will be the shortest as I exercise a bit of wisdom and hope that the press would ask me the questions, but I would like to use this opportunity just before I highlight five areas in my various ministries to, on behalf of the Cabinet, to congratulate you, Honorable Prime Minister, and Mrs. Drew, on your new journey. And while I'm at it, I want to also express my profound thanks and appreciation to Minister Philip for the support that she has been providing in the ministry that I lead, and the counsel, as young as she is, the counsel she provided for me. And finally, I want to express sympathies. I wasn't here when it happened, but I did personally, but I want publicly to do it, express sympathies to Ambassador Leon Natter Nelson on the passing of his dad, who funeral would be later this month. I think is the 28th. We are with you, brother. Under the Ministry of Education, I'm still very passionate about it. I'm quickly going ahead for this year. We are at the advanced stage with the professionalizing of the teaching force. This is an area that has been sponsored by UNESCO, and we are very pleased to report that we are at the advanced stage, and UNESCO continues to lend their support as we move towards eventually having our National Teachers Council going on. The one-to-one laptop initiative that we brought back, that from all reports thus far is going as expected, with a little hiccup in that, of course, the children being children, some of them found ways of downloading things that should not have been, games and that kind of stuff. But outside of that, I encourage the parents to make sure that the devices are used for the purposes that they are given, and the teachers as well, that whenever we walk into the school, and this is something that I'm going to be doing unannounced, I usually practice it, but even more often now, I need to see the children fully engaged in the use of the devices that we have invested in. I'm happy to report sometime in our last press conference, I mentioned the electrical upgrades at SEMS that is ongoing. And I was also at the school last week where we had the official handing over ceremony of a bathroom that we were able to renovate. We gave them a brand new bathroom after many years of not having a functional bathroom. And likewise, this is something that happened over in Keyon High School as well. As I indicated some time ago, that we are paying keen attention to the infrastructure of our institutions, and we have started on the bathrooms. In this quarter, we are going to look at the Sadler's Secondary School, which of course has been bearing the new name, which officially will be unveiled in March. Then we have the Virtual High School bathrooms that we are going to be dealing with. The Washington Archibald High School, they have a bathroom there that has been closed on for almost 11-12 years, and the Irish Town bathroom that has already been approved for construction to start. I think the last time I was asked a question in relation to desks and chairs, we have already ordered all of those chairs and desks. We are waiting the shipment, so our schools would be outfitted. This term in particular, I'm paying close attention to the early childhood unit, and I will be doing regular visits there. The Ministry of Education continues with training, and this term we will be conducting training in high scope trainer of the trainers, and it was, I think, on Friday, I was able to attend the retreat for the private and public supervisors under the theme Building a Winning Team. And I was indeed impressed with what I saw there. In April of this year, I will be, the government of St. Kitts and Nevis will be hosting the Ministers of Education and Social Development, the OECS conference will take place here in St. Kitts in April, and I will be the incoming chair for that period. We have been engaging a number of universities in providing opportunities for our citizens, and I'm very impressed with the way how universities are now approaching us. Haven't heard of our connection with the recent MOU that we signed with the Southern University. Many have contacted us, and we are in fact finalizing yet another memorandum of understanding that will specifically move our trained teachers up to the bachelor's level, and I'm excited about that as well. On Friday, I had the opportunity of attending a graduation ceremony at the St. Teresa's Convent School Hall, Church Hall, where the STEP program, we have been conducting training for our STEP workers who are interested in home care providers, and they went through the CFBC and they got their certification there. But in talking to the Rivers Career College in Canada, they had a similar program, and they were able to provide an additional certification for some 27 home caregivers, which will be serving our seniors throughout the country. I am very impressed with this opportunity, because not only do they have now a local certificate, but they also have a regional certificate that will open up other opportunities for them. I want to make an appeal, as I was informed through the STEP program, that a number of businesses that we are providing support for by having persons either intern or they have been there with the businesses for quite a while. The timesheet which allows the worker to be paid, I've been told up to sometimes 3 weeks the businesses would not submit. I am calling on them to fix this, because this is creating a problem in payroll. It means that the employee that you have working with you would not be paid. I think the STEP office would have written to the businesses, because as of February 12th, once this happens, the businesses will be responsible to pay the wage. I thought I should say that now, so that people understand the importance of you respecting what is expected of you. And the dialogue continues in the STEP program, as they have been calling in businesses to try to get some more persons off of the STEP program into the established business. I mentioned it in Parliament that some persons are there up to 10 years, and we are hoping that sometime during this year we'll be able to fix that. I move quickly into housing, and I would not speak much because I expect the press to ask some questions in relation to housing, but I'm very pleased with what's happening through the Ministry of Human Settlement and in particular NHC, as we have taken on some capital projects for this year. Those of you who drive through East Bassey and East Street would recognize, as I indicated, that the apartments have started in relation to the revitalization project and the renovation of our communities. Another capital project that we are undertaking in this year, the Garden Housing Project. A few weeks ago, the minister, along with representative from NHC, visited the garden housing development, and we gave a commitment that we are going to do the necessary renovations that needed to be in there, and that is in the tune of about $700,000. And of course, later down, we will see some more work being done at the West Street rental apartments. I know many persons would have applied. Some have already gotten back the approvals from the banks or the other financial institution. From what I've been told, we are ready, just about to get those initial homes being built on persons' land. So the East Coast development, housing development, that is going well. I believe some of you, the press, I'll be disappointed if you tell me you have not yet visited the homes that are being constructed. It was important for us to collect the data so that we know for a fact who we have to specifically target, because we know there are some who might not have met certain criteria in the bank. That will not deter you from getting an opportunity. The cooperation needed to get that information, because we have a mandate, of course, in meeting our people. There might have been a bit delayed in the delivery. That is not all of the investor or the company. You had shipping issues. When we had the case of the open house, we presented some designs. The country had an opportunity to critique them. We went back to the drawing board, and we were able to deliver even better than what person thought that we would have been able to do. I just wanted to share some 3,700 applicants so far, and I just wanted to share, in wrapping up, the 2-bedroom built by NHC would have normally be or would be 225,000. The 2-bedroom built by East Coast, the new ones, would be 213,000 with a 10-year warranty. And of course, it comes with the basic refrigerator, stove, the solar water heater, or a storage tank. The 3-bedroom that would normally cost you up to $350,000 through the NHC program, through this new initiative, it is $297,000. And of course, as I said, all of them would come with the basic appliances as I highlighted. I will stop here for now because I'm eager to answer the questions from the press. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister.
All right, thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. And we'll now ask the press secretary to help us with the moderation of the delegation of the question. So you can go ahead.
Thank you, sir. As a reminder, please note that all questions are to be directed to the Prime Minister, who will then delegate accordingly to the respective ministers. When asking your questions, please be sure to state your name and the name of the media house that you represent. And we're asking that you ask at least 2 questions at a time. We'll try to fit in as many rounds as possible. We know it's been quite lengthy. We're going to try.
Okay, it's 12:09.
Visit of the icon
here
of
we
the
go.
seas. How did
Just
that
having some
impact the
buffering
economy, and
problems.
how many passengers arrived when it came here? And what is the status of the coroner's inquests that have been pending since 2021 for the deaths of Customs Officer Andrew Douglas and Stonefoot resident Sandra Adams? Thank you.
I think the minister with responsibility for tourism can speak to the icon of the seas and the AG can speak to the inquest that you ask about.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister, and thank you, Mr. Cornelius, for your question. So the Icon of the Seas came on the 30th of January. The ship has a capacity for passengers of 7,500, and on the inaugural call, we would have welcomed 4,959 visitors. And jobs dispatched on that day, we dispatched 77 jobs. And dispatched jobs do not represent those tours and other trips that are pre-booked, meaning those booked with agencies who sell their tours on board, like Cantour, Scenic Railway, and all those other tour companies. So outside of those pre-booked tours, we would have dispatched 77 jobs on that day. We continue to benefit from cruise tourism. All of our stakeholders, those who sell tours, those on the beach, or beach vendors, or hair braiders, private petting vendors, and more importantly, our taxi operators, and those persons would have benefited from the Icon of the Seas and all the other ships that would have been in port on that day. Our Icon of the Seas would have raised our visibility as a destination as well, which translates into economic benefits as well. But being the first port on the revenue sailing itinerary says a lot for us. It raises visibility for us as a destination, and it speaks to the partnership we have with Royal Caribbean, and of course the strength of our tourism industry here in St. Kitts.
In relation to the coroner's inquest for Andrew Douglas, it was completed on the 9th of January. The jury found that there was unlawful homicide, but they do not know who did it. Therefore, the depositions that were taken during the inquest and the jury's forms, which they fill out with their views after the inquest, was sent to the DPP's office for consideration. I do not know in relation to the Isles, but I have inquired, and if I get a response before the press conference ends, I will relate it. I know that there are 8 more scheduled inquests before the Magistrates Court. That might be one of them, but I'll give you accurate information, hopefully, before the press conference ends.
Okay, the virtual questions. I have 2 questions from Vaughan Radio. Could we have an update on the Ministry of Agriculture's Greenhouse Village initiative, which was put in place to help achieve the 25 by 2025 goal? This was asked by Ms. Donella Thompson of Vaughan Radio. Another question by Ms. Thompson. What is the current status of efforts to improve the water situation for residents in constituency number 8, specifically Keon and St. Peters?
All right, I'll direct the Greenhouse Village question to the Minister of Agriculture.
Yes, good morning. Oh, sorry. Well, afternoon. It's been here for quite some time. Good afternoon. I addressed some of that in my earlier presentation. To sit down in Brotherson's, we have cleared some, I think it's 12 acres of land, and we are now constructing the first phase of 15 greenhouses down in Brotherson, and we have another 20 greenhouses on the way here to be installed before the end of this year, getting ready for 25 by 25 agenda. And I think that should answer that question. Yes, thank you.
And I think Minister Maynard would have given some information as well with regards to the status update.
Well, just to reiterate that, as Minister Maynard would have mentioned, that we are on the verge now of really turning on that source to contribute to the overall availability of water in the area. and we are expecting a larger pump within a week or two, and so the people of Kayon can expect that improved service. I would like to say that we also attempted, and it has had some success, with the water tanks, where people had larger storage tanks and were able to store larger amounts of water. That helped significantly as well. However, the ultimate solution to that is to have more sources available. One being the well, and of course another source will be the desal plant, so that we can, in this year, solve to a great extent the water availability issues that we experience at this particular time.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for providing some more in-depth information on that. We appreciate that. And we open the floor once again to the media for further questions.
Good afternoon. Junie Liebert, Freedom FM. Prime Minister, congratulations, and we wish you God's richest blessings for the future to you and your wife. I have two questions. First, I'd like to find out what is the state of play as it relates to the prison farm project. The media has for some time been asking about the number of passports under the Citizenship by Investment program. How many citizenships have been granted under the prison project? My next question relates to the solar project. Just bringing up my notes. Just give me 1 second, please. Yes. A recent government press release stated that new arrangement has been made regarding the solar plant. It said that Skillet will save US $200 million for the duration of the contract. How will this happen? How much will Skillet get? Why is the cost US $80 million when the amount stated by the clause originally was about the same and was regarded then as too much? How will local ownership be made available? Will all people be offered shares in Skillet, or will a separate company be formed? Thank you.
I want to thank you very much, Freedom FM, for that question. And the matter of the solar, I would allow the Minister of Energy to answer that question, and then I will deal with the other part of it. Minister?
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Yes, so as the statement would have said, the government pursued a renegotiation with Solec Power to provide 35 megawatts worth of solar and 43, I think, megawatt hours of battery storage. I think it is important to note that the government does not spend any money on this project. What is important is the power purchase agreement with Skelec, which was renegotiated. So, for instance, it doesn't matter as much to Skelec what the eventual cost of the project is from the developer side, as long as the power purchase agreement price is accepted by who is buying it. So the investment is coming from the developer side. So they will explain as to why their particular system will cost a particular amount. I can tell you that when we got there, we had this CQE analyze the project and in terms of its cost to understand if the project was well priced based on what they were offering. And based on what they were offering, CQE advised that they understood in large part why the project would cost that amount for them to develop. The benefit that we've had from the renegotiation is this. Before now, no one could invest in that project locally. That investor will invest all of the funds into the project. But now we have an opportunity where anyone, any resident, any citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, resident citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, will have an opportunity to what we call buy down that project and have an amount that they can invest in, which will then lower the amount of money that Skelec has to pay this company. Over the coming months, that framework will be developed such that people will be able to invest in that. The important part about this as well is there is no requirement for us to invest until we see the project build out itself. So we can wait right up until the switch is ready to turn on and provide power to analyze whether or not it is something worth investing in. We'll be able to see the project, be able to see what is going on with the project, and then be able to say how much we're willing to invest. We have a range such that the buy down can be substantive. The company will provide all of that information, etc. In terms of, the company that will be set up. Most likely it will be a special purpose vehicle that will be set up so that people can invest in. We'll provide all of the necessary information so that people will know what they're investing in. In terms of the $200 million you spoke about, that will be the savings on fuel to provide that amount of energy over the period of time. So that is an estimate of how much fuel savings we will have by going solar power and battery power. I think that was the extent of the question you asked. Did I touch everything you asked? Was there anything else? So thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable. I think that people can appreciate the renegotiations and how that will really benefit more our people here in St. Kitts. And of course, will have an impact on the overall economy and benefit also the people in Nevis.
Sorry, Mr. PM, I forgot to mention that the renegotiation not only dealt with the ability for persons to invest, but the overall lowering of the price mechanism and the also the timelines, the strict timelines that have been in place. Before time, it was this negotiation happened maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and nothing happened. So when we renegotiated, we put in some strict timelines that allows the government and Skelec to withdraw from this agreement if the developer does not meet the timelines.
Yes, thank you very much, Honorable. Let me say from the onset from the CBI program in general, I have been speaking about this for some time, and I hope that, the message will get home, that with respect to the CBI program, it was one of the toughest aspects in our taking the government or my taking specific program, recognizing that we had to do a number of critical adjustments to make sure that our program continues to be a viable program, in the sense that our international partners who are involved as well would see that the changes that are made will bring some level of assurance that we are serious when we come to the issue of making sure that our program is secured. Very, very importantly. And you would remember that we went through probably 2 iterations of changes, and those changes were really to ensure that. Let me also say that St. Kitts and Nevis has taken the most significant steps in making sure that this type of program, our program, would be a program that is very much in keeping with what is expected on the international basis. What do I mean by that? We have raised the price for our program. That is one. We have included added layers of security so that the program can be extremely secured. And we have added other dimensions, such as a board, of course, to make sure that we continue to pay closer attention to it. And we have also gone to add what we are terming an international security officer, so to speak, someone whose responsibility would be to make sure that those who participate in our program are in keeping with the laws of St. Kitts and Nevis, and they are in keeping also with international laws. That, of course, has had its own repercussions, but we believe at being the leaders in the program and having made those substantial changes will result in the long run of a viable, very stable program that will benefit St. Kitts and Nevis. That is why we keep saying that we have to diversify our economy more. Because when we took over this country, the economy was too dependent on the CBI program. Too dependent on it. That is why we opened up the country on the 7th of August 2022, so that tourism could once again take its rightful place. We lagged way behind the other countries in the OECS. Some of them saw numbers above 2019 levels. And the reason for that, people in the United States and Europe were just waiting to vacation and St. Kitts was the least on the option in the OECS because we had restrictions when they had none. And that, of course, we remember the restrictions were held for political reasons, to try to shut down the country again for the 5th of August 2022. And you all can remember when I said openly that as the leader of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party, this party will make sure that no elections is held under restrictions and lockdown when the rest of the world was opening up. As a result of that very unfortunate political decision that hurt people locally means that people had to go through more mental stress. That is why you see that I said from the beginning that the mental strain will be seen, but we have to seek to mitigate it as much as possible. That's one aspect. The other aspect was the financial burden and stress and strain. Because tourism did not rebound as it should have, taximen were affected negatively. Those in the industry were affected negatively. The economy was affected negatively. We took over a deficit budget in 2022. A deficit budget, remember that I said that even back then in 2022. I'm taking this opportunity to speak to the CBI program, Joni, because I think it's critically important that I do that. That is what we took over. When we took over, of course, there was the prison project, which we spoke to. And I said during the campaign, and we said during the campaign, that we're not going to neglect hospitals and schools and prioritize a prison at that particular point. I think most Kittitians and Nevisians understand that even though that institution is important, that the state of our hospital leaking, equipment missing, we know all the woes that people would have had. Why not invest there and stabilize that? We know the situation with the Bastia High School, students in temporary housing, the state of the bathrooms around St. Kitts and Nevis in the schools. Why not deal with that? And that was the premise of our arguments. We know that about 5,000 citizenships were offered for the prison project. At any given time, I would say that one would have to see what does that result in terms of the numbers. And I call the CIU to see if anybody has gone to really ask them the numbers and what has happened. I don't know if you have written to the CIU to glean the numbers. And even I want to ask you so you all can understand how it works. It does not mean that one mean one. It means that one can mean based on how much family members you might have. And that is why at any given time that the best number is achieved from there. So those were used and mostly done for the project, and they're still going through. So that is why. So you might think it's 5,000, so it's 5,000. It may not be that, Junie. You need to know how many family members per main applicant. That is how it works. And therefore, that number is a number to be specific that you would have to get from there. But most of those went through the system already for that. Now we say we have to do an assessment, look at where we are at. But one of the things we decided we would never compromise, even though we had that particular number, what we would never compromise is the security and the due diligence. That, irrespective of everything, we made sure, and we have said to our international partners, we did not compromise that because security is critically important. So in terms of the numbers, those are the numbers. What is the number? most of them had gone through. How much gone through up to today? I can't give you that specific number. The CIU would have that specific number as well. But you have an overall of the numbers that were offered up and how much may have been used. So that is where that is in terms of the numbers. In terms of the project, there was a contract, of course, but I told you what our position was. And all of that has to come now under our new regulations and our new laws to make sure that everybody is in compliance with what we are putting forward. It is no doubt that each time you go into administration, you inherit things. We have inherited a lot of things. And sometimes I listen to the press conference and I ask, the depth of analysis that is being done and the depth of analysis on what occurred is being done. Because we took over a deficit economy. We took over a prison project with the number of citizenships that I talked to you about. And I still think that people can be asked those questions. But what we have done is make sure that we create a program that is now viewed very favorably by our international partners to the point where we were stable and secure enough and trusted enough, rather, to have had the Canadians look at us favorably and give us partial visa-free access. And we are working towards having full access. But of course, that has affected a number of countries within the region as well. But that access was taken away from St. Kitts and Nevis, and we worked. There were those who worked, such as Ambassador Truss. But I also would like to say that my interaction with Trudeau in Bahamas at the CARICOM meeting in February of 2022, he and I had lunch together, and I've said it publicly. 2023, sorry. He and I spoke, and I asked him to right. No. I think it was 2023, February 2023. Yes. And I asked him specifically to take a particular look at our situation, understanding that a significant amount of work would have already been done as well. So I am happy to also report that our program is seen in a much favorable light based on the critical changes that we have made. But I continue to reiterate, and maybe because I would like, maybe the press can sit down and get maybe, a small overview of how the program works. That when I say it was probably the most challenging for me, that you will fully understand of what I speak. But I think we have walked through a good part of it, and I will continue to update the country as to where we are with respect to our citizenship by investment program. Let me say lastly, in diversifying the economy, as the Minister of Tourism said, we want tourism to become all year round and not seasonal. In diversifying the economy, we are seeking to establish energy as a sector. In diversifying the economy, we are going to establish and expand the cannabis industry. As a part of diversifying the economy more, we are investing more in agriculture, the greenhouses that was spoken about, the hatchery that is spoken of, the 25 by 25, and so forth. So we are going to be looking for those opportunities. The orange economy, where the minister spoke to that as well, and resolving a lot of our utility issues such as water and energy and technology, because technology has to be a fundamental part of that development. And to say, lastly, we must never ever forget health, because health is wealth. That's one. And two, the human development capacity. Our country has presented the Sustainable Island State Model, and for the first time in our history, we presented in 2023, and the Minister, Congress Maynard, I want to thank him for his excellent work with the Minister, Dr. Clark, as he led a team to the United Nations in 2023 for the first time, the Voluntary National Review, where we presented our Sustainable Island State Model that we received very good reviews from those involved. And then just recently, the Minister of Investments and is here, that our National Development Plan was accepted in Cabinet, and it is extended, I think, up to 2040. So we have created the framework to diversify the economy and create a more stable situation here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Next question.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister, and let me take this opportunity also to extend to you best wishes on your recent marriage. And I do that on behalf of myself as well as the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis. All right. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, recently we wrote a letter to the Minister of Tourism with regards to a perceived situation and exclusion of the private sector independent media from the coverage of certain important events of the Ministry of Tourism and SCASPER. We await a response on that, and we're really hoping that we can have a meeting and discuss the issue and see if we can come to some kind of amicable resolution to the issue. Now, my other question, my questions really now relates to, one, the Affection Bank that you spoke about several months ago in 2023. And you also mentioned that as part of one of the first and major projects would be something related to a fisheries industry. What has become of this? We haven't heard much about it in recent times, and we would like to know what is the status on this bank and its activities within St. Kitts and Nevis and between the Eastern Caribbean. The other thing relates to Haitians, the Haitians and the Cameroonians. If you recall, the last time we spoke about this matter, there was supposed to be some investigation or study being done by a United Nations agency, and there was also the issue of asylum seeking by the Haitians. What has become of these two groups of people? Where are they now, and what is the status of the program? Those are my two questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bat. Thank you for the message from the Media Association and yourself, and also from Junior. I do appreciate. With respect to tourism, the minister will answer, but let me say this, Mr. Bat, that this government has instituted Freedom of Information Act. It is the most robust, I think, maybe in the Caribbean. That is being missed. Just recently, there was a Caribbean discussion as to our good governance laws, and believe it or not, St. Kitts and Nevis is actually leading in the Caribbean in terms of our implementation and our seriousness with making sure that that happens. So I want you to know that it's always in our decision making to make sure that you have as much information that you can have. And with that said, Mr. Bat, I'll let the Minister of Tourism deals with the specific of the matter.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. And thank you, Mr. Bat. I did receive the correspondence from the Media Association. We are in the ministry organizing when we look forward to engaging your association so that we can have the issues discussed. This government, as the Honorable Prime Minister says, and those of us in the Ministry of Tourism, we do understand and appreciate the role that the media plays in the dissemination of information to the public, and we appreciate the principles of democracy and freedom of the press and all those things. When we engage each other, one of the things that will come up is that our ports are highly regulated by the Department of Maritime. They regulate our seaports, and the Civil Aviation Department, they regulate the airports. And our airports and seaports, they're regulated for a number of reasons, for the safety and the security of our passengers, and of course for the integrity of the operations at the ports to ensure that we comply with international standards. There are a number of protocols and policies that have to be in place to ensure that tourism continues to thrive. So there are a number of restricted spaces, a number of policies that when we engage each other, we will discuss. You said it's a perceived, it's perceived that we are keeping the private media from things that we have at the ports, and there are reasons for it. We have the protocols to determine who has access to the ports and which areas of the ports you can have access to. For example, on the apron, the tarmac, not even me as the minister can go freely. And so those are things we will discuss when we engage each other, but our ports are highly regulated. And for example, our industry partners, TSA, for example, they come and do regular checks. And if we're seen not to be complying, they can then determine that their flights cannot come to St. Kitts because they feel that, or if they have any feeling that the operations at the airport or even at the seaports. Maybe 2 weeks ago, we had the U.S. Marine Department who was here working with our Maritime Department, observing our practices at the cruise and cargo ports. So we have to make sure that we are complying with the regulations. We are monitored by the Eastern Caribbean Civil Aviation, ECHO, regionally. We're monitored internationally by the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. We're regulated by IMO. And they just make random checks sometimes just to make sure that our policies, protocols are being observed to ensure that they can send ships to our ports, the cruise ports and the cargo ports, and even send in flights, especially TSA. They just come and do random checks. They will just pop up. I mean, they will notify the Civil Aviation Department because we're a sovereign state, but they do random checks just to make sure we are complying. And restricted areas and persons who have access to the ports, those are some things are discussed in the annex or the agreements that we have signed on to. So I look forward to the engagement with the Media Association so that we can ventilate the issue some more, and I will make sure that my assistant reaches out so that we can have the meeting set up.
Prime Minister? The other two questions, the African Bank agreement, the fisheries project, the status of that.
Right, so with respect to the African Bank, I had an update this morning. As you know, it's the Evergreen Company. They came into St. Kitts, and African Bank, of course, had to first move to the region. So they are now established in Barbados. We went ahead and we passed the relevant legislation in Parliament so that they can do business. Other thing is that those who were in the project, had announced the project, they would have returned and met with members from the agricultural sector, and they looked at lands and so forth. And so now they are finalizing their proposal to the government, and I'm expecting that proposal within the next week or two. So they're on the final stages of making the final proposal to the government in terms of scale, in terms of their business setup, and so forth. So I'll have news for you, Mr. Bat, by the next press conference in a month's time. They would have completed their project and to the government, and therefore we should see some movement on that.
The other question was in regards to the Haitians and Cameroonians.
Right, so the Haitians and Cameroonians, as you know, the Cameroonians were here, just to remind people. They were on their way from Antigua to some other destination. Their ship capsized, they were rescued, some passed away, you know, God bless their souls, and those who survived, we brought them here to St. Kitts and Nevis. We were in touch with UN, and we had set up an arrangement for them to stay at a particular location in compliance with what is considered humanitarian aid and with the UN's own refugee approach. However, I can report that mostly all of them have left St. Kitts and Nevis. We don't know how they have left, but I can clearly say the vast majority has left St. Kitts and Nevis thus far. With respect to And those who are here, a few of them are integrated and working, just a few. They are working, and they're, of course, still under the UN's refugee status, which we are seeking to, complete. And I recently spoke with the UN representative who came to see me just maybe a couple of weeks ago. We discussed the particular matter. But I can say the few who have left, they are employed and they are taking care of themselves. So in terms of cost to the government, it's significantly less. With respect to the Haitians went to the Haitian community. We had given them support. But I would say, based on the situation in Haiti presently, they were again traveling from one island to a next island. We brought them in, we assessed them, and gave them all of the checks necessary, and they have been released to their community. Where the decision is based on the situation in Haiti, and we are still going through the refugee status with the UN. It takes some time. But as you can see, the situation in Haiti continues to deteriorate. And it would be, where we would have to send them back, we would have to ask, would their lives be in danger? These are the kind of questions asked before you send back people. However, based on what the AG said today in terms of human trafficking, St. Kitts is not open to human trafficking. And that is why we are going to the parliament to stiffen the laws. So nobody have any ideas that you go to St. Kitts because of how we may have treated humanely others. That is the type of people we are. That is the type of country that we have. But to say that that is the status with the Haitians presently, that they are within their communities and going through the UN refugee status program. And the Cameroonians, to say again, most have gone, few are here. Few that are here, they are employed and also going through the process.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We have two virtual questions before we go back to the floor. These are also from Vaughan Radio, Mr. Jarvis Brown. As Nevis will be hosting half of the TDC Inter-High School Championships, for the sake of the general public, what are the plans in terms of accommodations? Will the athletes stay over in Nevis for the duration of the event, or will they travel back and forth between islands? The second question, can we have an update on the committee responsible for CBI proceeds, aka fair share for Nevis? Is this still on the federal government's agenda?
I will turn it over to the Minister of Sports. I think I like this format and being helped much more. Capable to you.
Yes, thank you again, Honorable Prime Minister, and thank you to Vaughan Radio for that question. And so the Inter-High School Championship meet is actually conducted by the SKN AAA. However, we've been supporting the SKN AAA in ensuring that they're able to execute that effectively. What the SKN AAA has advised is that the schools have determined to camp as they usually do in St. Kitts, and we will then charter the athletes over to Nevis to perform, and they will come back to their camps, and we will do that for both days. So that is what is agreed with the schools and the SKN AAA, and we support that and will support that with everything that we can to ensure that it is executed in its best way possible.
Thank you. Prime Minister? The CPI, can we have an update on the committee?
Right. So let me say, the question, I think, at the depths of it is the fair share question.
Correct.
Since I came into office, I have sat with the FS and also communicated with Nevis that we have asked the World Bank to study St. Kitts and Nevis and to present to us a model for revenue sharing. I think that what it offers is to have a reputable, independent, expert organization to study it and deliver it to us so that when it comes, whatever it says, it will bring a deep sense of impartiality and fairness to the outcome. So that is being pursued. And I would ask the FS for an update on that. Nonetheless, let me say that since we have come into office, we have shared much more with Nevis and the people of Nevis, not just the government, but the people of Nevis. We continue to send the budgetary support of about $5 million per month. That is outside of everything else. That's extra support. And that most likely coming from the consolidated fund where the CBI proceeds also go. So that's about $60 million per year. In addition to that, we used to get a grant from a favorable country to us, and it was being hidden from Nevis. Since that, I have opened up the grant, and Nevis receives 25% of it, which is about $5 million that they never used to get, that they get now. The other thing to look at is to see where the federal government continue to do its spending in Nevis. For example, all of the security in Nevis is paid for by St. Kitts, or 90%. Those are the police officers, the military, and so forth. All of that is paid by the federal government, coming out of the same consolidated funds. And there are multiple things that the federal government pays for on Nevis, such as those who benefit from the PAP, soon to be the LIFT program, such as those who benefited from the Elevate program and other federally driven programs. They also benefit from the consolidated fund and not from the Nevis Island administration. I will also say that we introduce other things, such as the dividend payments. The Nevisians who qualify, just as the Kittitians who qualify, they got in the millions sent to them. So the Nevisians benefited from that, from the CBI program on multiple occasions. Of course, I will say that the dividend is dependent on the inflows to the CBI. I want to clear that up. It doesn't mean it will be the same all the time or you will get it all the time. It is a dividend. For those who understand what a dividend is, it depends on your inflows or your profits, and then you share with the shareholders who are the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. The other thing is the independence reset. You all remember the $1,000 was a part of the independence reset. Again, the people of Nevis benefited in the millions of dollars. That had never happened before. And that came out of the consolidated funds from the CBI proceeds. The other one that we looked at again, even when we did the last one before December, when we have gone now to do the $1,000, where we have the savings and financial education plan, include all the children in Nevis who qualify. This is the first time I think that Nevisians can say that they have benefited directly from the CBI program. Even though during the era of the failed unity arrangement, they did not benefit that much. The people of Nevis did not benefit directly from the CBI program as they have under this administration. And in addition to that, their children will soon benefit directly. So a child in Jessop's will have the same benefit as a child in St. Paul's, or St. Peter's, or Newtown, or Godwin Gut, or Sandy Point. Same as a child, give me a place in Nevis, Butlers. Hard times, we're going to change it. We're going to change hard times to good times. Morning Star. What I'm simply saying is that there shouldn't be any difference in terms of those who benefit. So if you look at that, you'll recognize. Even when we did the college and with the process, when we did the back to school help, divisions were included. So we are keen to ensure that our brothers and sisters in Nevis are not excluded. And if anyone were to do a fair analysis of the opportunities and benefits that the people of Nevis would have had since we have taken office in 2022, would have been significantly more than under an arrangement that included a party from Nevis. And so we'll continue to look for those opportunities. Give me the opportunity to say one more thing in terms of that. I had also spoken, apart from getting that study, and I'll ask the FS to see how far the World Bank is that the IMF is presently here, and I think I'm meeting with the IMF today. They are studying for us the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And when I came, I told the FS that we are very serious about establishing that fund. That fund can create an opportunity to be more sustainable. That fund can create opportunities for our continued development. But first of all, is to have a fund to deal with any unexpected major disaster that can ravage St. Kitts and Nevis. And that fund will cover both St. Kitts and Nevis. Nevis will not be excluded. And so just to follow up, that one is almost to its completion, and I'm sure the sharing of the revenues, because what he's talking about is the sharing of taxable and non-taxable revenue. The Constitution spoke to the taxable. Of course, it didn't speak to the non-taxable, which is the CBI program. So that is why we want that arrangement. But suffice it to say that all the benefits that we have offered through the CBI program, apart from the $5 million per month budgetary support that the Nevis Island administration gets, Nevisians have benefited from dividends, reset, and the other programs, many other programs that are run by the CBI, and from the grant endowment that we receive as a country that was hidden from them by the former Prime Minister, the immediate former one. All right, so I just wanted to answer that one.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We return to the floor with the next set of questions. Just to note, we are nearing the end of the press conference, so I would allow, we'll just have one round of questions this time around, and I would allow for at least 3 questions so that we can begin the wrap-up process.
Good afternoon, Sherman Matthew, SKNIS. The St. Kitts and Nevis was recently represented at the 10th Conference of Parties, WHO Framework Convention on Tobacco Control. In light of the discussions at COP10, what are the anticipated challenges and opportunities in aligning the Federation's tobacco control measures with the global standards set by WHO FCTC? And how does the country foresee overcoming these challenges? What strategies and objectives guided the decision to brand New York City taxi cabs with St. Kitts advertisements, and what specific outcomes does the Ministry of Tourism anticipate from this campaign in terms of increasing tourism and awareness of St. Kitts in the Big Apple over the next 6 weeks? And what can the public expect in terms of benefits and changes as the program transitions from PAP to LIFT? And how will this shift impact the overall objectives and support provided to the target communities?
Thank you very much. I think I will start with the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the issue and trade and the issue of tobacco. And then the other question, the New York City branding, will go to the Minister of Tourism. And then LIFT, of course, the Mr. Philip. Go ahead, Minister of Trade.
All right. Thank you for that question. Of course, the convention framework on tobacco control, it had its 10th meeting of parties to the convention called COP10 just last week, starting from Monday to Saturday, and I had the opportunity to attend. Tobacco control has been one of the major issues that has confronted the world and in particular, the Caribbean region is not exempted. However, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, tobacco smoking, cigarette smoking, tobacco smoking is not a big issue compared to what we're seeing in the world. In fact, I think there's a 9% prevalence rate that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis. But we have a lot of tourists who are smokers who come to St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have to make sure that we align our anti-smoking and anti-tobacco laws with what is happening globally, especially through the United Nations Convention. That meeting that I attended last week was not conclusive on a number of matters. It was a meeting that was held almost 5 years after the previous one, when work was set out to be done and thus reported upon this particular COP meeting. There had been an ongoing issue where a number of the technical matters were not able to be measured according to the technical groups, that the expert groups have reported. And because there seemed to have been quite a bit of differences among the parties, especially in the working group, a lot of their work also was reported inconclusive. The position that St. Kitts and Nevis took really was that there was need for the working group to continue its work, and that its work be pursued along the lines that we had used in the past in the management of the HIV/AIDS pandemic and other chronic diseases which we managed here in St. Kitts and Nevis, and in particular in the Caribbean region. That was not supported, and in fact, the decision that was taken in that meeting was to have the working group work suspended, and that COP11, which is in 2 years' time, would pick up on the issues which the working group intercessionally had failed to complete. The whole idea, however, is that St. Kitts and Nevis continues to pursue the matter of control of tobacco smoking along the lines that we are seeing internationally as directed by the UN framework and convention. So we will continue here. In fact, I can make reference to what we did recently with regard to smoking. And in fact, I do not want to say more than what I have said, because I want to report back to the cabinet, because I believe some adjustments would have to be made on some of the existing laws that we have identified in order to keep abreast with the convention framework that would have been established. So this is something that we will revisit in the future.
Thank you very much, Minister of Tourism.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Ultimately, the objective for the car swarm, where we branded the vehicles, is to help with filling those seats. So we can't be extending routes or introducing new routes and not know how we're going to fill those seats. It's not going to be beneficial to us. And so this is a part of the overall campaign to increase visibility in the core markets. So we didn't go to Illinois, we didn't go to Tampa, but we went into our source market, which is New York. So it's strategic. We also have feeder markets out of New York, where we find a number of visitors who take flights out of JFK. They feed from Canada, Ottawa, Toronto, and other areas. And so it was strategic to fill the seats on the itineraries that have been extended, particularly from April up until August, so that we are getting value for the taxpayers' dollar.
Go ahead, Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. Please forgive me, I will take the time to make sure I can explain what the plans are in relation to implementing LIFT. So please accept the fact that I'll take a few minutes. I know we're at the end. So when the Ministry of Social Development took over the Poverty Alleviation Program at the start of the SKNLP's administration term, there's a commitment for us to be able to evaluate how that program is running, to then be able to better provide a more sustainable social protection framework that has better programming and empowerment opportunities. That is what the LIFT is designed to do. So the LIFT is going to be implemented as the new and improved cash transfer social assistance program. And what that means is essentially we've been able to identify the weaknesses of the PAP experience to then be able to make improvements in the delivery of LIFT. So LIFT is essentially an improvement over the PAP in 3 significant ways. So first, we have been able to see how we can provide more money to households and families on the LIFT program. So what that means is we'll be introducing a range in terms of where families who are eligible for LIFT are able to receive up to $600 monthly. So that would be a range, a minimum amount, say from $250, but up to $600. We will be relaxing the policy that the PAP had where it was supposed to be, we've been strict in terms of making sure it's $500 per household. So the PAP was always a per household benefit, but based on the experience of PAP, we were able to see that across St. Kitts and Nevis, we actually have a trend where there are multiple families living in one household. And so that became a challenge where there are families, maybe smaller units, who have a need for some sort of assistance. And so with LIFT, we are going to be able to provide some level of cash transfer assistance to multiple units that are in households by relaxing the 500 per household criterion. So we will be providing essentially more households. We're putting more money into each household where it's applicable, obviously based on vulnerability and need. The second major improvement we can speak to is the LIFT program will be implemented a lot more systematically to be able to improve transparency and fairness. Something else we would have identified during the PAP experience is that it was implemented without any real systematic process. And so we found many instances where there were several people who were really in need of assistance, who weren't getting it, and then there are persons who were receiving, but were kind of taking advantage of the system. And so to address that, we'll be implementing LIFT to better target and streamline beneficiaries. So for that, LIFT is being targeted to families that earn less than $2,500 monthly, and that is on gross income. So gross income is the income you receive before your pension and benefit deductions. And so we are seeking to streamline to be able to better target those who are most vulnerable and in need. LIFT will prioritize the vulnerability of the unemployed, those with and without children, single-parent families, persons with disabilities, and of course that includes parents with young children with disabilities, and of course our seniors. For seniors exclusively, we will be working a lot more closely with the National Social Security Board. We've had conversations ongoing in terms of how we can, in light of the increased pension benefits, be able to couple social assistance benefits from the LIFT to provide one combined, monthly available assistance so that our seniors, especially those who earn very little in pension, can actually live with dignity. So we've been able to recognize that not all seniors have as much need for social assistance on top of their pension, but for those seniors who maybe receive only $350 per month. We want to be able to give them more and give seniors who do not necessarily have as much of a need less. Third thing, in terms of improvements that the lift will be offering is, of course, empowerment opportunities. Now, you would recall that during the PAP experience, during the last phase of that experience last year, we would have piloted some self-development sessions for persons who were receiving PAP assistance. The LIFT program will be implementing this a lot more systematically to establish that is just part and parcel of the program as a condition for continuation of receiving the benefit. So LIFT beneficiaries will be expected to participate in self-development activities, which includes case management, evaluation, education and training opportunities that help beneficiaries to build knowledge, improve confidence and skills, and maybe even find employment. And this would have been based on pilot sessions that we would have hosted with PAP beneficiaries during 2023. I must say that for the LIFT, because we're really trying to see how we can help to really empower persons so that they're not continually dependent on the state for assistance, we are asking and expect LIFT applicants to expect that the benefit is not indefinite. But of course, we want to make sure that those who are in need in the immediate term can be able to afford food, shelter, and of course utilities, which is really what this social assistance is intended to do. And so we certainly want to ensure that everyone continues to receive the help that they need so that no one is left behind. Now, I just want to say I did mention the plans for implementation. We will be opening the application process by April 1st. That is the plan. The ministry is working towards that. Just a note to say that for persons who are currently receiving PAP benefits, we want to be able to help make the transition smooth because we do expect that some persons who are on the PAP will continue to be eligible for LIFT, and we have no problem continuing to support them in that regard. And so persons who are currently on the PAP and who will be eligible for the LIFT with the new conditions, you will be invited to verify the information on your original PAP application and resubmit it for consideration on the LIFT. Now, this doesn't mean there's a guarantee, but we will for sure at the more initial stage invite persons who are interested to be considered for LIFT to just verify your original application information from the PAP, and then you can resubmit for you to be considered for some level of LIFT assistance. So that should be done before the anticipated last payment on the PAP program, which should be by the end of March. So I would invite everyone to stay tuned in relation to the announcements of dates for when we will be opening the applications and move forward in that regard. So more information will come, especially as we work and move into the implementation phase of the LIFT program. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Minister. I think that was comprehensive, and I think that is understood that we want to really help those who need the most help. And I'm happy that you are able to increase the amount because some people require more than others based on their stead in life. Let me add something. It is recognized that the best way to help people out of poverty is to help them in their benefits and their wages. That has been studied. And that is why labor movements and organizations, workers' movements, they fight for more benefits for their workers, especially in terms of wages and salaries. Why? That is why we said let's increase the minimum wage. If you look at the increase in minimum wage, for those who need the most, it would, if you look at the amount, you realize that it can make a significant improvement for them based on what they have to do. Why is this so important? One, it means that when they retire, they will get a larger security, social security. They will get larger social security benefits. It means that with a larger minimum wage, you can approach a financial institution on better standing. So it gives you a better opportunity to access funding from institutions. It is not a simple cash handout, so it brings dignity to work, that I work and I work for more, and what I get is what I work for. So it has the effect of dignity, the effect of better social security returns, and the effect of having better standing in front of a financial institution because they ask you how much you work for. That is why we were determined to increase the minimum wage after near a decade of no increase. Can you imagine that? Surplus after surplus they were talking about, yet no increase in the minimum wage for the people. And what you had was a PAP program that was arbitrary. You give to who you want and you take from who you want. But when somebody is working and you're obligated to give them that minimum wage, they work and they earn. You cannot one day take it away and one day give it to them. So it brings stability and certainty to our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. When you look at Social Security and you look at the minimum payment that people were getting, I said to the Social Security Board, or rather to the director and the chairperson, can't Social Security do anything more for those who receive the least? Because the Bible talks about the least among us and what we are going to do for them. So it's not just about words, it's about action and policy to help them. And Social Security increased the two minimum payments, those who are non-contributory and those who are contributory. And many of the seniors have expressed their appreciation and gratitude for the increased amount. So it lessens the chance of choosing between food and medicine. And so what we are seeking, that is why we came up with the investment plan for the children and financial education. Because if they can invest now, own shares now, get the financial education that we did not have, we don't even know what dividend means. And I say we don't know as a people because we have not had the opportunity for that type of financial education. But we are going to make that available for our people so that our young children in school from 5 years old can be saving and having shares in companies, building wealth even before they're adults. Again, giving them the opportunity to break cycles of poverty, because just handing out money is not going to end poverty. As a matter of fact, it can make it worse as you become more dependent, less productive, less growth. And therefore, the shift in this government is to give real opportunities and benefits to our people that would allow them to build wealth and break the cycles of poverty. And sound policy that makes sense and that have proven to work. That is why I say, St. Kitts and Nevis, this cabinet gave us a revolutionary budget. And we are determined to create a sustainable island state. And we are determined to do all we can do to end poverty. That is why we are targeting those who need the help the most. That is why LIFT has been introduced in the way that it has been introduced. Let me just wrap up and say,
Sir, you're wrapping up.
I can just wrap up and then you can close out. So let me.
Sorry,
Yes.
didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, but there's just one media house that didn't get an opportunity to ask. So I wanted to grant that one media house before you give your closing remarks.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon. Sorry to keep everybody back. Kevin Brown, WINNFM. Can we get an update on the Old Road Rehabilitation Project? Is there a timeline on when that should be completed? And can we get an update on why it was because there's second layering of asphalt and the lights are supposed to be added. Additionally, the IMF released a report recently with updated projections for economic growth in the region. It's 0.4% lower than October's projections. So as geopolitical tensions mount and the Red Sea attacks continue and other effects continue to mount globally, is there any concern for how all of that would affect the Federation? Have we seen any impact observed here in the Federation? And are there any short to medium term plans being considered to make sure that the Federation is cushioned against any shocks in the future? Additionally, what are the priority areas for heads of government for the upcoming CELAC meeting? And finally, did St. Kitts and Nevis win any bids for warm-up matches for the World Cup? Thank you.
I'd like to go through one by one so that we can.
Sorry, sorry.
Question, go ahead.
Yes, sorry about that. The first question, can you repeat that for me, please, Mr. Brown?
Rehabilitation of the old road. Yes, we have that.
Yes.
So I'll ask the Minister of Infrastructure to respond to that.
All right, thank you for that. I will get a more definitive timeline as to when the developer hopes to continue the final layering of the road. However, it was delayed because of it was delayed for a number of reasons before now. But the final delay has to do with some operational issues with respect to the developer. So they have asked for some time to get those operational things in place. In the meantime, it has one layer on it, which is sufficient. And we are aware, I had a discussion with the developer about the possibility of even putting some temporary markings on the road. However, the challenge with that is you do not want to put a foreign object like paint or markings on a sub-layer, because then when you put the layer on top of that, it could cause some other problems. So hopefully I'll be able to find out exactly when the final coat will go on, but the developer had asked, the contractor had asked for some time to get some operational issues sorted out to be able to do it. Just so you know, it is of no cost to the government, because the changes that were made, the contractor decided to take it on themselves. I probably want to say also importantly that the reason why it had to be redone is less of a contractor fault, in my estimation, after having looked at it, compared to advice that was given to the contractor. The contractor and Public Works had raised objections to a particular approach. This is before our time. However, their advice was not necessarily heeded, and the results of that caused the same thing that the contractor and Public Works had identified could be the problem. And finally, because of the location of the road, it's one of our roads that is closest to the ocean, and the Bay Road. So the design mix was posing some challenges in terms of where the material needed to come from to get the right, I forgot what the term is, for the core material that is being used, such that it doesn't deteriorate as fast because of where it is. So when it's down, it can stay for a much longer period of time. So all of those operational issues are being worked out. But I should be able to give you a more definitive timeline in not too distant future. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister Maynard. The next question was in regards to the IMF report, the reduced percentage, 4.5, and the concerns on the effect of the Federation from the global issues that we're currently facing. What are the plans to address these issues?
Right.
Or the impact of it?
So basically, I'm happy for what was reported. There might be a downturn. We would have that number for what St. Kitts and Nevis might go through. With it, I think the OECS has shown some resilience nonetheless. That is why we want to create stuff like our fund, our sovereign wealth fund. Because if we don't have those type of things in place, then we can be hit much harder when there are issues in the world. When there are issues in the world, energy can go up and affect us. That is why we are so hell-bent on getting renewable energy through solar and through geothermal. That is why we want to diversify the economy. Because diversified economy is more resilient than an economy that depends too much on one sector. So all that you see that we have been doing is really to create a sustainable island state, which puts us in the best position to resist exactly what you are speaking about, Mr. Brown. That is exactly. So we have been on a pathway to creating that, whether it's through energy, diversification of the economy, not to depend on heavily on one sector, creating new sectors and new opportunities. All that is to build a resiliency that will protect us from the ups and downs that we suffer when there are changes in the world, whether geopolitics, whether conflict and war, and so forth. And therefore, we have some measures in place. We have to put more measures in place. All of the measures have not been gone into place. But I would say that we are keeping a close eye on it to see the impact that it might have on us at this particular time so that we can take the necessary measures. But in my last meeting with the FS, it was not raised as a major issue for St. Kitts and Nevis, but we'll continue to monitor it closely.
Okay. The next question was in regards to SILAC, the priority areas for the meeting.
Right, so SILAC, the foreign minister, is here. All of that in terms of the agenda, I don't know if the foreign minister has an updated agenda on that, but I still think some matters with respect to SILAC are still being finalized as we speak, in terms of the final agenda. SILAC is in March, is a little bit out still to finalize all the aspects of the meeting to be held in St. Vincent.
Okay, and the final question was in regards to the warm-up matches for World Cup.
Oh, the warm-up matches from the minister.
Yes, thank you. Regarding the warm-up matches for World Cup, they are not matches to be bidded on, actually. They're selected by, I think, CWI. And up until last week, they have not selected the venues for their warm-up matches yet. I've been in communication with them. But just to know that St. Kitts and Nevis had indicated their interest officially, probably noted as probably one of the first countries indicating such. And we're just waiting on them to make a determination as to how and where they would conduct these matches. But it's not something to be bidded on. Thanks.
Thank you, Minister. Before we go to the closing remarks, one last thing. The Attorney General has a response in regards to the question that was asked earlier with the coroner's request.
Mr. Cornelius of ZIZ, I got an update from the Magistrates Court. The Isles coroner's inquest has not happened yet, but it's going to be scheduled within the next couple of months. And after it's resolved, I will get information as to the decision of the jury from that inquest.
Okay. Prime Minister will now give his closing remarks.
All right, thank you very much. We have been here a very long time. I think it's almost 3.5 hours. It is the first press conference for the year, so we expect a lot of things, and after our budget, a lot of things to be discussed and to lay out. So hopefully going forward, it will not require such a extensive update. What I would like to say, however, is as you can see, that this team continues to function and to function at a very high level. We are delivering in a number of critical areas, and where there are challenges, we of course are putting forward solutions. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis can know that they're in the capable hands of a team that can really, really deliver. An A team, as I've been reminded. And so I want to thank all of you for joining us for this extensive, in-depth update. We look forward to joining you on a monthly basis where we want to be totally open and transparent with you with the matters that are affecting you, our beloved citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. Thanks to the press once again, and thanks to all of you, and thanks to this excellent team that continues to work. Take care. Be blessed.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Delisle Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
With the WINNFM Midday News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Yulana Weeks.
Our top stories.
Kitishan mother charged for the murder of her 2 children. St. Kitts and Nevis holds further geothermal discussions with a Saudi Fund for Development. Nevis Investment Promotion Agency pleased with the investment